broke a vase. Don't wait for days. Here's what to do.
Good as new.
Galaxy glue.
Hey, beautiful, beautiful. Welcome everyone to this episode of the Cheap Seat Critics Podcast, where this week we are covering The Incredible Shrinking Woman from 1981, because who knows if they'll make a new one. Today we have...
Hello, everybody. I'm one of your hosts, Kiki Ryder.
I'm Crimson Maroon.
And I'm Sprinks. And hey, if you're listening from, a backyard funeral, you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, as well as LetterBoxd. We also have visual side of things over on YouTube and Rumble, if you prefer that.
Perfect. As stated, we watched The Incredible Shrinking Woman this week, and I'm very interested to hear your guys' history on this, so we'll start with Sprinks.
Cool. Never heard of it before. I thought it might be connected to Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. Not at all. That's all I had.
It could be.
It really, about 15 minutes in this movie, really screamed something Crimson saw when he was a kid.
It's got the hallmarks.
It really
Crimson
hits
hallmarks.
this thing that you watch with your family as a young boy.
All right. Ryder.
I think I've heard of it, but I've never watched it. And by heard of it, I mean I think it was like some scant conversation that's outside of the podcast regarding like stuff my mom used to watch when she was younger and stuff like that. So I feel like this was on my periphery at some point, but never watched it until now. And obviously, I never went out of my way to watch it.
Yeah. All right. Now the expensive one. Pop all the knuckles. Yeah. No. This was, as Spring said, a childhood film. It's not one I watched a lot, and it's actually been a long time since I've seen it. So I've probably seen it maybe 6-7 times. Once for the podcast, obviously. So not a crazy amount, but it was present in my childhood. There were some moments in here that I'm surprised my mom in particular would just let me watch as a kid, because she was pretty protective from TV stuff. But that's about it. It's not that extensive. It's there. I obviously heard of it, so there you go. That's something. All right, let's jump into the facts. I will start with the budget as I do. This one's got a little addition to it. The initial budget was $30 million, but they axed it to $10 million. So the overall budget at the end was $10 million, and the box office was $2.3 million. So I guess a good choice on their part to not go with 30 and to go with 10.
I guess this falls into a thought. This was a theatrically released movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, you thought this was like a made for TV?
I thought this was made for TV. It really felt made for TV.
Well, piggyback off the theatrical release thing. This little known director, Joel Schumacher, this was his first theatrically released film. He made 2 films before this, but they were not theatrically released. But this was his first theatrically released film. Known for doing The Lost Boys, Batman and Robin, Batman Forever, Phantom of the Opera, little known movies.
Yeah. Sure, let's go
plus
with
some
that.
other ones.
Number 23?
Yeah. Falling Down?
St. Elmo's Fire.
Yeah. So that was interesting to find that when researching facts. Let's see what I've got. This was filmed in 3D, or parts of it were. Whatever 3D for 1981 is. But they changed the format midway, and we got what we ended up getting for the final product. So, that was interesting to have a format change.
I don't know any scenes that are really popping out, nudge nudge, of 3D element.
Yeah, I'm with you. Nothing. It's not like Spy Kids 3D where like you get the turtle pogo sticks or the
Yeah,
butterfly.
actually like leaning forward. Maybe like Jeff shooting his rocket gun thing.
I guess
But all
none of
those
those are
scenes were
like close to the
cut.
camera or anything.
Yeah, it's not. Oh, the water hose. Maybe.
Yeah, that's true. That is at the camera at one point. Let's
I
see.
think.
Makeup artist. Never mind. Continue.
Yeah, so I was assuming I'm trying to think of like where 3D assets would have been implemented. I think a lot of the stuff where she was just much smaller might have been, uh, like in the when she was living in the dollhouse. Some stuff like that might have been like poking out at the camera.
I mean, it could help with the scaling of things, seeing it in 3D, right?
Yeah.
She feels small because she feels real and not just an image. I don't know. That
That
might
would
be.
be interesting. I don't know if
Hmm.
they could do it in 81 when this film came out, but is there possible for like scenes of a movie in 3D to only have certain items be the 3D elements and not the whole scene?
No, I don't think so because the glasses are set for the split
Yeah,
on the screen. So
but what if
you
I mean, what
you'd
if
have
like
one
it's
thing that's 3D
colorized?
and everything else would be like weird looking.
It would be
Oh, if
mad.
you did
Yeah.
like the blue and red classic, I guess you could probably do that.
Okay.
The classic 3D, but modern 3D, I don't think you could do that.
No, probably not with Martin. It would look weird. But back in 81, it probably was the red and blue 3D.
Or most likely. Or what was before that? It was it pink and green? I think was before the red and blue. That might have been that. All right, next fact: makeup artist Rick Baker portrays Sydney the gorilla himself, and this he was also the one that did the makeup for An American Werewolf in London, which was the first ever Academy Award for makeup.
Rightfully so.
Honestly,
He's got
yeah, it
some accolades.
looks pretty good.
Yeah, this girl is pretty awesome.
Rightfully so if my comment going to American Werewolf in London.
Yeah, I figured that's what you're saying. The large shopping cart prop from the grocery store scene was later used in Jackass the movie. I haven't
Oh,
seen
cool.
Jackass, but that's been on my list of things to watch. Have either of you seen that?
I don't.
No.
Kind of.
Well, okay, let me rephrase it. I've seen some parts of it. I just know I wouldn't like it, so I didn't bother continuing it at all.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
It's not my sense of
I don't know how
humor.
to I don't know how to classify it as a movie. I mean, it is a movie. It's like maybe like kind of the vein of like Impractical Jokers, the movie.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't want to spoil it for you since you haven't seen it, but
Yeah.
kind of that ish.
All right. My last fact I'll be going with is this was based off of a book called The Incredible Shrinking Man from 1956, which got a movie called The Incredible Shrinking Man in the following year of 1957. So this is loosely connected to the. They're both connected to the same book, but they're not connected to each other. The movies are not.
Now, hang on.
So they're not like. So it's not like
This is not a sequel to The Incredible Shrinking Man. This is just a different adaptation of the book that was also based on.
Interesting.
Now, did you say the word based on?
Yeah.
Ooh,
Based on the book.
interesting. Because that's not what I read watching this movie. It said something I don't think I've ever seen in a movie.
Okay.
It said suggested by.
Well, I mean, maybe this is just so far removed because it's following a woman in her life than a guy's, which would be different at this time. I don't know. I don't know how different this is from the book.
Okay, I just find that as its own humor for this movie of someone being like, "Hey, you should make a movie like this book," and someone goes, "Cool," and all they have is the title.
Yeah.
Like suggested, that not actually like based off of what they read.
They just got a reading suggestion and didn't bother reading. I'm like, oh, this title inspires something. Let's go to work.
Yeah.
The title was inspired. The movie, not at all. It has nothing to do with it. I mean, yeah. I didn't look into the book at all, so I have no idea how close this is at all. Maybe Ryder can read it. Ryder
out of my
likes
mouth.
it. Yeah.
Add it
that
to your
the
list.
stockpile, yeah.
Put it right under Christmas with the Cranks.
That would be up to 3. All right.
Did you finish Secret Garden?
No, but because my copy of that book is in storage now. Unfortunately, I don't have access to it. Which is kind of funny because I bought it at an airport, and so the fact that I don't have it anymore, it kind of bothers me.
Sounds like you got to go back to the airport.
Yeah, I'm not buying it again, but.
Oh, darn. All right, well, that is it for the fact section, unless someone's got one.
I do, but it's more one we can just take up going along.
Okay.
I don't.
All right, and we shall jump into the coverage. We are doing a 3-act structure, popcorning within the acts, as we do. First act consisting of the start to when the neighbors are attention hogging off of her celebrity status, which would be right after concessions, tucking in the kids,
and doing the dance for them.
Yeah, doing the soap song dance. All right, we can start with Ryder.
All right. I have to admit the opening didn't really hook me. It was just kind of, this is gonna be really weird. It was grating in a real way, like the people advertising. I might have gone on a little too long for my taste, but it works, I guess, as an introduction to the film and a bookend.
So are you talking the cheese thing or the title sequence where you're kind of just hearing the voices?
No, the cheese thing in general. I'm fine with the title sequence when we're just hearing the voices. I thought that was going to lead to something, but
okay. So the cheese thing was a bit much, not much of a hook for you. Okay.
Yeah.
So a little over 3 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
Until they get to okay. I'm just trying to see where the cutoff of this hook is that you're defining.
Okay. Yeah. No. Well, the hook. Obviously, it's not really a hook in the sense. The hook is when obviously our main character is introduced or whatever. If I'm gonna narrow it down to a specific facet, but it didn't really pique my interest in the film. Hearing an advertisement about Cheese Whiz or like cheese spray or whatever, canned cheese.
Okay. Cheese teas.
Yeah.
It tastes just like cheddar. Says the guy, anyways.
Tastes like shit.
Yeah. I think it does a good job of setting up the film's tone.
It does get the setting right. It sense like I get the setting, I suppose. I just knew, and I would agree, it does set the tone as well. Like I said, but that's my dislike for it is completely subjective. I don't have an objective issue with it. The only objective issue I could see with it is that it's a slight pacing issue that it might go on for a little too long. But I'm not convinced of that being an issue. It's just it didn't service me subjectively. I didn't enjoy it.
All right. Okay. All right. That's fine. Okay.
Not to go against it, but I do like that the first instance of something in the movie we have is someone trying to sell something.
Oh yeah, this whole movie's about consumerism and stuff.
Yeah.
The first 2 acts. Mm-hmm. This movie to me felt very much Truman Show people in a Edward Scissorhands world.
Very, very specific. And I don't disagree with that assessment. These people are very extra, especially her neighbors when she's entering the neighborhood, trying to sell their product.
That this world is commercialized. These are commercialized people.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty much.
Kind of Twilight Zone-ish. That's what hooked me of like all these people trying to sell something has this something's off,
Oh yeah,
and that's what got me into the mystery of what is happening.
yeah, I definitely got the whole over commercialized capitalist bit very, very quickly. So, like I said, I don't have any issues with that aspect of it at all. I actually quite like that.
Hey, Pat, what about a weenie? So funny. I don't know why that's so funny to me.
Welcome to Tasty Meadows.
Yeah.
All right, I'll jump to the car with the green spray that Jeff opens accidentally, and what it really is, because it just says green, which isn't that much. But in the science lab area, the scientist points out that it's deodorant. And I don't know if he's just pointing out random stuff and it just lines up, or if he's intentionally pointing it as deodorant. And if that's the case, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, because first viewing, I thought it was like a house cleaner, so poison's going all over this car.
Yeah.
But even still, deodorant, you probably shouldn't be, inhaling that.
Mm-mm. And even if you pop the cap off, it wouldn't be spraying. You still have to hold it down. So that was just not realistic.
It was defective.
Yeah, it was a defective can.
Best faith assumption is the kid just ripped something out about it.
It made me question, was the death rate higher back in the day over small trivial matters such as things like this?
In real life?
I mean, the death rate was definitely higher due to products not having proper warnings and stuff.
Yeah, there was definitely a higher death rate for that.
Okay.
What else did I have for this part? Oh, I did like the joke of you can't breathe in the car, so she pokes her head out into the car exhaust and is still coughing because of the car exhaust.
Yep.
I found that amusing.
It really hammers home the capitalists bit, I guess.
Really gives the foreshadowing that she's gonna die.
Maybe more than once.
Probably. Of many different various forms of cancer at the end.
Yeah, the giant cigarette. All right, Sparks, you point out something.
The very beginning, the digital clock font for the opening credits, with the small film shake that is seen and the film blips, not exactly cue marks that we discussed when we covered Wizard of Oz, or cigarette burns for Fight Club fans out there. Certainly dated the film for me.
Yeah,
which
I mean,
gave me the impression that it was made for TV.
No, it's just a period piece. It's older. I did like the creativity of the font of each word gets smaller. I don't know why they chose the clock font, but I did like how it changed sizes.
Yeah, it's got a more of a sci-fi feel to it.
Also, the transition of going into the O in the digital word woman to go to the cheese seller, hard cuts at 1:16. Like, it doesn't go through the whole animation.
I see.
Take it. I'm the only one who caught that.
I got it. Yeah, it cuts off the sides of it. Yeah.
They tried.
That's true. They spent hundreds of man hours on that.
This was a $10 million movie. Okay.
$10 million in 81. All right.
Cutting the budget in the first 2 minutes. Cutting corners.
Yeah, I mean, the first script was written for the 30 million budget. They were going to go to DC and stuff and have this whole thing, but then they had to rewrite it for a 10 million budget. So,
yeah,
fun stuff there.
7 million into the gorilla handling.
All right, writer.
This is more of a funny thing. It was really hard. It was really funny and interesting to see Miss Frizzle in live action.
Is that Judith?
No. Our main character is.
Pat.
Yeah, Pat is Miss Frizzle and also Aunt May from the Spider-Verse.
Oh, no Spider-Verse.
Yeah, so it was just weird to see her.
Okay, you mean the voice talent?
Yeah, yeah, the voice
Got
talent
it.
for Miss Frizzle, and
Thank
yeah,
you.
that was the
Sorry, you
implication.
said
Yeah,
Miss Frizzle, and I went to like the characteristic of Miss Frizzle, and I don't.
no,
Interesting.
yeah, no, it's the voice talent for Mrs. Frizzle from Magic School Bus. Yeah,
Got it.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, she's also in a lot of good live action stuff. I don't know if any of you've seen 9 to 5, but a lot of people like that one.
I haven't
I
seen it, but
didn't
I've
care
heard it.
for it that much.
Dolly Parton.
Yeah, a lot of Dolly Parton in that one. Let's see. I think this film is quite
Oh, here come
unique.
the adverbs.
Unique in the way it portrays stuff. Like, it's kind of all over the place with styles of like the speeding up montage stuff kind of just pops out. The music choices are wacko.
it feels experimental.
It does. This film does feel like that.
Yeah.
Putting the
Like,
groceries away
Putting groceries away.
with the speed up and the kazoo felt like something straight out of Sesame Street.
Honestly, I wasn't expecting it when it happened. And I was like, this is weird.
Yeah, the grocery bit with the music, and when they're escaping with the elevator scene, that music is
that one fit a little bit more for me, but maybe I had settled into what the film is at that point.
That's true. So, yeah, that's that broad statement there. Sprinks.
Yeah, the cheese guy, the cheese seller, force feeding people on camera. You can't do that today.
No, not today.
No, definitely
That's a
cannot.
big problem. Stuffing weird. I don't even know if the product's on the shelf in the store, but just like force feeding people experimental food products. No,
Well, it's not just that. The people could be allergic to the food.
it could be
That would
higher
be
death
the
rates.
huge reason nowadays to not do it, just for allergy sake. Yeah, so I agree. Very reckless of the man.
Yeah,
for sure.
Also, Pat's car plate saying Miss Mom.
Miss Mom. Mm-hmm.
Little detail.
Yeah, and I forgot what her sticker said, but it was.
Have you hugged your kid today?
Yeah. Yeah, the kids. I'll talk about the kids. She's got a few of them, but only one gets a good amount of screen time, and maybe two. I don't even remember the girl's name. But Jeff is the main focus kid.
I was going to ask, do the kids just disappear? Because I thought she only had two, and I just assumed the rest were neighborhood kids.
Great question. I think she only has two, and the rest are like Jeff's friends.
Yeah, I just assumed the rest of their neighborhood kids. If they're all the kids, that's a problem.
And that's
I have no idea.
Because they go on TV with the family, and it's just two kids.
Yeah, that's why I assume it's just the two kids, and then the rest are just the neighborhood kids that come over to hang out because they're all friends.
Because Pat never tucks any of them into bed.
I know.
No.
Just the two.
She just hates them all.
It's just weird that they're so prevalent without being identified as anything. That's interesting. Okay, yeah.
Well, Jeff is just a menace.
But yeah, Jeff is freaking everywhere. Jeff's one of the worst kids ever. Really. It's pretty bad.
He's wild, but he's not cruel.
He was about to shoot his mom when she was like 10 inches tall in the face with a gun.
Yeah, that is true. That would have really done something, but...
He was shooting her when she was trying to cook dinner.
Well, I mean, when she walks into the bedroom and gets hugged by the robot, he was going to shoot her in the face when she was that small. Crazy.
Yeah, the kids are... I had mixed feelings on the kids, but I was kind of... The thing I wanted was that quiet moment, which the film thankfully gave you, which is like, I love you, Mom. And then, she came over and kissed him. It's kind of what I needed in order to solidify the insanity, I suppose. Like, no matter how crazy things get, the love is still there.
Yeah.
They're still a family.
Yeah, exactly.
These are
Go ahead.
Not shoot. The Baudelaire children are in series of unfortunate events, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking the Nanny McPhee kids.
Oh.
I forget their name, but those are wild kids.
Those are wild kids, but
Yeah.
they love their dad.
Yeah.
They do, which reminded me of this. Very wild children, but then there's like an instance of love you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is usually what I prefer, is what will draw me to stories like this, because I was waiting to kind of, for lack of better words, waiting to care. um and that one, I think that moment pulled me, and I'm like, okay, all right, I can see, the potential in this now a little more.
You wanted a character more than just a characteristic.
Yeah, exactly. Because them being wild is fine, but that's pretty much all they were up until that point. They were loud, obnoxious, and irritating, which is fine. Kids are like that, but there's also kids can be quiet too, and they're very
Yeah, when they're
intuitive.
sleeping.
No, not necessarily, but in like they're very intuitive. They do understand feelings very well, even if they don't know how to express it. So I think that for me is what I guess made me care about the characters a little more, which I needed going into this film at that point. So
Yeah, they wanted to know if their parents were doing it.
yeah, that was weird.
How old are these kids?
I don't have anything to defend that one. That one was a little weird to me. It's
yeah, different. I have no idea.
I'm like, if they were a little older, I'm like, all right, they're in their, they'd be hitting puberty. Makes sense. They have interest in that or whatever.
Interesting. I have it the other way around. I think if they were younger and more innocent.
Well, it's not like, oh, they're dancing again. Like, are they doing it? It's a different layer. It's past the innocence lens. It's something else.
Yeah.
Weird.
I think it would have landed more if they were a bit older, or they were, this is gonna sound weird. I guess more perverse. I guess.
Oh yeah. Is it just a dated joke?
I don't know. I mean, they even reference it the time here. It's like sex and violence on TVs, and then they have kids doing sex jokes in this. I feel like that's risky at this time.
Yeah, it's not an impossibility, and I do acknowledge that it could just be my more modern take with regards to my more modern sense with regards to art. But I don't know if the joke is aged. It just didn't land with me any. If I don't know if it just didn't land with me. Because I guess I was never in that era where that was a possibility.
Crimson, a little defining question. Does this movie take place in the year it came out?
I didn't find anything on anything. I always assume that unless it's stated otherwise, or very obviously not.
Oh, okay. Or possibly a year prior for like during filming of it. And not distribution.
The movie, as far as I'm aware, didn't reference any years. At least I didn't catch anything. They referenced a month somewhere.
The only times that I think they could have referenced a date or time or month would have been when Judith is going through all the magazines and the newspapers and stuff sitting on the table.
That might have had a date on it.
There would have been dates and stuff on that, but I don't know if there was, because I didn't really pause to read everything on the paper.
Okay.
I imagine you have a reason for asking that question.
Well, just the look and the tone of everything going on around here. It felt, for a movie coming out in 81, to me at least, I'm like, this doesn't feel like the 80s. It definitely felt more early 70s.
I wasn't alive. I don't know how much of the 70s crept into the 80s. I don't think it was a hard cutoff. Once
but if the movie was
went to the 80s,
filmed,
everyone turned into rockers.
Yeah, but if it was all filmed with, the highest technology they have for fashion of 1980 for it to come out in 81, then it's literally just the tail end of the 70s. And if, for all we know, the 10 million, the bump from 30 to 10, could have been like, oh, we can't get new things on the market. We have to get what we can, which is older stuff of the 70s. Possibly.
That gets into a lot of assuming.
It does.
Um,
I don't know.
I wasn't alive in the 70s or 80s, so I have no input on if this is era accurate to 80 or 81. I would imagine it is.
Okay.
So maybe you can ask someone or a few people who did live through this time. Get their
Yeah,
thoughts on
I'll see if I can find anyone who saw this in theaters.
Good luck.
The only notes I'm going to add on to that is I think while commercialism is very, very prominent, I think that it's obviously exaggerated, I think, to a point for the sake of parody in this film, which kind of adds into the whole... which is the layer, I guess, of the commercialism is what's been exaggerated. Because I think, for the most part, it does nail down a lot of the feeling that was abound back in the era. Because there was a lot more, like, you chatted with your neighbor over the fence between your houses just because you knew each other well. Like, they attended your parties and they attended your, barbecues and stuff like that. So I think a lot of the era, it's probably within, like, a 5 years gap, 10-year gap, I guess. But it's, I think, fair. It feels fairly accurate to me. Can't really say for sure, though.
Okay. Whatever people say, I will not say it's timeless.
It's definitely a product of its time. I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
I only caught 3 of them, but there's a transition use in this movie that only happens early on, where it does a screen flip with a colorized background.
Yes, and this is the one where it cuts from the work, right? I think it's the one you're talking about.
Possibly. The first one I caught was a yellow background at timestamp 4:01. And then there's a hot pink one at 8:19. And then the last one I caught, which I think was the most connected, was a white background with a green border around the image to match that of Dan, the boss, holding the sample of Galaxy Glue, which is a green tube with white lettering. But from there on in, it doesn't occur again.
The only transition that stood out to me, and this was happening when I was collecting screenshots for the film, was I think it was the cut between when we first cut away from, like, the boss at work. Like, they had the talking, he's about to give her the galaxy. I'm gonna give him the sample Galaxy Glue. We kind of, that cut back to the house, I think, was the transition I caught. I don't remember what that one specifically was, though. I think that was the flip
that's
one.
it's a flip with a white background, but the border around the flip of the film is green. Probably have that on my timestamp somewhere. 14:44.
Okay.
1444 is the white and green background. Or transition.
Yeah. So 4:01 is the yellow one, 8:19 is the hot pink one, and 14:44 is the white with green.
Yeah.
But that's all within the first 15 minutes of the movie. And there's 3 instances of that.
And then doesn't continue after that?
And I didn't catch one for the rest of the film.
I think this might be indicative of time jumps, maybe.
Oh, interesting.
That's probably my biggest problem with this movie. Shocker. It's usually the issues I have.
Is the time?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have.
Well, as we know, with her shrinking, it's not continual. It's very sporadic. She's totally fine for what we know could be a whole week where she's one size, and then in an instant she shrinks. Well, to basically a lot. Well, I don't want to just give it away what act that is because we're not in that act, but
yeah, it's probably my biggest issue. We get like, ooh, Christmas happens. Okay, that's about it.
Yeah,
That's our time frame. This probably all happens within a year. That's what we got.
Well, the beginning of the movie, everyone's out like
Summer,
waxing their boats and making hot dogs, so I feel like that's summery.
probably safe. People in tank tops and shorts and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But then does it loop back around to summer at the end of the movie? Because the cheese guy is still selling cheese.
Oh, I was holding on to that. I think that they did all the grocery stuff in one time or one
take,
shoot.
one day shoot.
Because the lady that tasted the cheese showed up in every scene at the grocery, even inside with the grocery the shopping cart incident. She was there. She was at the end.
Isn't she wearing the same clothes too?
She is
I
not.
didn't go back to look.
I caught it. She's in different clothes.
But
first
yeah,
outfit's
she shows
more
up in
pink, second one's
every
yellow,
grocery store.
I think, or flip flop.
Mm-hmm. So I would imagine they just did all those together, or at least close, to save money on having to go back and reshoot for the order of the film. That's assuming,
yeah.
but don't know. Right? Are you? How about you bring up?
Sure. Judith is kind of borderline abusive towards Pat in the first like 20 minutes of this film before she goes rah rah fuck all the chemicals. Like, you know, she's making snide remarks about at Pat about her kids and at Pat for not being a good parent for a solid like 20 for a fair portion of the film here. And I think it bugged me that okay. Pat doesn't seem like the kind of woman who would push back on that, but I guess it bothers me that no one acknowledged it. If that makes sense.
Just a nosy neighbor.
I'm trying to remember. It was what's his name? The dad. I'm blanking on it right now.
Well, I can't
Vance.
tell if it's Lance or Vance.
It's
because I feel like the boss calls him a different name and Pat calls him a different name.
Yeah, Vance.
It's Vance.
He's not in many scenes with Judith, right? I can't think of many.
No, it's usually after the funeral.
I think he would call her out or at least make faces to her responses, but he's not around.
The only instance is
the kids wouldn't do anything.
Yeah, I assume the kids wouldn't do anything. But like I said, it's just a little weird that no one pushed back on that a little bit. I do like how like non-caring she is though in some later scenes. I think this is still in the act. The Galaxy Glue party, yeah, where the vase gets broken.
Galaxy Glue, yeah, that is in here.
Okay, yeah, when that happened, she clearly has like specific interests, like what everyone's going to greet their hosts. She's still like digging into one of their neighbors for not cleaning up after their dog.
Yeah. Very detailed notes.
Yeah. She definitely is the nosy neighbor archetype. And I guess I have more to say on Judith, but I guess I can wait.
Okay. The broken vase that Greg, that animal, just bumped into and destroyed. Absolutely terrible. Obviously, the broken vase is different than the repaired vase. The damage is not the same at all.
Yeah.
But
the broken vase is far more shattered. And the fixed one is like, oh, it broke into 5 pieces. It's fine.
Yeah, it's small. I did like the integration of the jingle, and they did it later with the glue and stuff. Just really fits and sets the tone still. I don't know. It makes it different to me. I don't know how to explain it.
Vance finishing the rhyme of the jingle to the music really made me feel like something is up with these people. Something is wrong with this town.
Something is wrong with this world. But you're onto something there.
I felt again very Truman Show like. Like these people are just selling products to people like through a fourth wall.
Well, if you saw the repairing the vase as a commercial, you have the jingle, you have the camera focused on the product, and you have the crowd of people watching and cheering as it's getting fixed.
Yeah.
So it is shot like a commercial.
I was
that
waiting for
scene.
that like pan back shot of like what's a good example? Man, I'm not gonna get the episode correct, but like WandaVision episode 3 or some like maybe it's the first episode or whatever, where it comes out of the TV to show someone watching the TV. I'm expecting kind of that moment, like during that commercial, it like pans out and like gets a little staticky of someone watching the movie like it's a TV.
I could see the connection. Yeah, nothing I thought of because I was a kid watching it, but I could see the thought process with it.
Yeah, but hey, the movie takes a turn to kind of explain something, but that's later.
Speaking of galaxy glue, let's talk about the magical properties of it going on everybody without anybody touching it in the laundry room. Everyone just starts sticking the clothes to each other, and I was like, okay, I think only Vance touched the glue. I don't even know how Pat got glue on her hands.
Okay.
But then everybody had glue on them.
So Crimson, you didn't go back and check?
No.
Okay. I did, because I had the same question. I went, how the heck did this happen? She never touched it. When Vance fixes the vase, he leans forward in like celebratory manner and touches Pat's hand and backs away. And then he puts his hands on her shoulders. So there's glue on her hand. From what I could tell. That is the only like physical touch for her hand to be there. And then her hand with her daughter and the clothes, then it gets on her, and then Concepcion just screaming bloody murder for having glue on her.
And her family just does nothing.
No.
Yeah, it is a very excessive scene right there.
But it is a slight small detail of Vance just leaning forward and touching Pat's hand.
I mean, it explains how it gets on her, but everyone else, they didn't touch the same clothing spots that she did. But it is a nice detail that you picked up there.
The scene definitely still unravels, but it's there. They're set up for it.
Yeah, when your kids eat experimental exploding gum and start foaming at the mouth, isn't that like a call for help? Isn't that like, oh, let's go quality. To the hospital?
I mean, this
will be fine.
This is the beginning of the 80s. Who cares? It's fun candy.
Great question. And then they go to bed and still have stains on their face.
That was a bit out there for me. I feel like Pat would clean them up before bedtime.
I thought she did clean them up because I thought those stains were gone when they were protecting the bed.
That I went back for because when they were in the hallway, they had obvious. And like, oh, let me go back. It's on there. It's just hard to tell because the room's kind of dark, but it is on their face.
All I can tell is, I mean, they don't have a scene of her cleaning them, but all I can tell is like maybe it's so experimental. It's like, I can't clean it off with this product. We'll check them in the morning.
It stained their faces. It could be. A writer.
Sure. I find it funny, all the grueling, extensive scientific tests. That's in this act, right? I should have wrote it down.
Yes, it is.
It's they just throw science jargon at the audience, but it works in the weird way because they're doing like every test imaginable, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So at least that's what's said in the narration. So like even the scientific jargon that's not related at all to what they're doing makes sense because of how much they're actually supposedly testing her.
I started writing them down. I'm like, okay, I'm done. It's still going.
Yeah.
I'm wasting space on my notes for this. This is too much. They do reference the pituitary gland, which is related to like growth.
Yes.
So there's some connection scientifically that they tried to make there.
Yeah.
Sprinks made a noise.
I did. Crimson, you said that it got to the point where it would have been too many notes, so you just stopped. I too
With
had something like
the
that in this
tests,
movie,
yeah. Uh-huh.
where I waited to see if it would stop, and it didn't. And I realized if I did notes on it, it would add a lot of time to this pod episode. I almost went down the rabbit hole of how much color theory is in this movie, because it's around every single stinking corner. And I'm like, this is too much. I can't. Everything is colorized. Everything has a color to it. And it's not like,
has color, yeah.
it's not Dr. Seuss just mumbo jumbo colors. It's something's this for something to me. And I'm like, it's too much on it. Like pink. Pat's all pink. Everything's pink.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, there's different reasons to pink. Very warm and loving and inviting, very family, very loves her husband and all that. But I also saw it as like a tamed red, a building frustration, a building anger to the point where she snaps. So that's just one example.
The kitchen is pink. The kids' room is like a yellowish color.
Pat wears a lot of pink.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Judith's attire, Vance's suits. Movie. He's in like a Colgate turquoise toothpaste suit or something. Just weird colors.
Yeah, lots of vibrant colors. I agree. Colors people don't typically wear nowadays to the degree. My understanding of this time anyways, they're like predominantly 70s, but like I said, I think it leaked into the 80s. It's just everyone wore vibrant, ugly clothes. Ugly in a broad sense.
Being ugly as in an individual sense.
No, I mean, a lot of people can look back at the 70s and say it's not great. But yeah, I think it's definitely indicative of the time. Any meaning behind her wearing pink, I didn't catch any. So that's my stance on it.
Not surprised.
Well,
we covered color theory.
I'll let that fly. I'll let that one go. All right. Ryder.
I think when they visit the doctor for the first time, because Pat's shrinking, I found it funny that the vanilla folder was empty. At least I'm pretty sure it was empty. The doctor's folder when she's like, "What is it?" It says, "I was always this height" or whatever, and he opens. I think the vanilla folder was legit empty.
See that,
but it amused me.
I can believe it. I didn't pick it up. Yeah.
What amused me at that is when she says I'm 5'7" and the doctor looks shocked.
It's like he saw a ghost.
Yeah.
Man, I can't believe it's happening again. Again?
That is the face. Like, this is happening again. Yeah. Too bad we didn't get much more of this doctor guy. I liked him with how little we had him. He was like in 2 scenes. But
yeah, he's fine.
He's definitely better than Eugene, Dr. Eugene. I think I only wrote him down as Eugene once.
Who's Dr. Eugene? I got
the main scientist guy.
Oh,
the bad one.
Mustache.
Yeah.
Okay.
The mustache.
Dr. Eugene. Yeah. Mm-hmm. With the evil sound cue when he walks on the balcony watching them leave the test facility.
Oh, I wrote in my notes. That was called Synthwave Smith because I thought that was to the agent next to him. And I went, this is this character's introduction, this huge synthwave beat. Okay.
So you saw that as the agent, not the scientist?
I did.
Okay.
Because the scientist we've already been introduced to.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I could see that connection there.
No, but the scientist reminded me of some cartoon character. I can't remember who.
I mean, he's quite cartoony.
I forget his name. The bad guy from Jimmy Neutron.
The short one?
Yeah. The
I don't
glasses,
remember his
the like
name, but isn't he
baldish
like
hair and the
bald?
mustache.
Yeah.
I'll say like Doctor Nefario, but that's the Despicable Me guy.
Um, interesting connection. Let's go with Ryder again, because I think I just did that.
Yeah. I guess to kind of jump back a little bit, I don't think the shrinking is consistent, but I do. I guess like the visual aesthetic, they try to clue you in that she's shrinking, like the lines on the doorway, where she's measuring herself, and then obviously her feet being too small in the slippers.
Yeah, I think they do a good job for the most part because we see when she's entering the neighborhood and goes into her house, you see Judith looking at her through her kitchen window or some window, and that is brought back later when she just came back from the doctor's, walks home. We have
Yeah.
the exact same shot of Judith looking at her through the window, but she is
Now is below the
she is
wall.
shorter.
Yeah.
So that was a nice comparative shot to show a before and after progression shot. Yeah.
I agree. I don't, like I said, I don't think though the shrinking was consistent for like the quick cuts between here at the beginning where she's shrinking slower, but I do like a lot of the visuals that they do for it.
My favorite, I think, is the overt expectation one of her in the office sitting on the couch. And I'm just like, okay, she's shorter. And it isn't until she's handed a glass to see how small she is.
Um, yeah,
I think
think
was my favorite.
I think they did a great job with her the visual of her being small in this. I mean, even the
Forced
scenes where
perspectives?
I mean they're all forced perspectives.
No,
They
they're
have
not. It's a
that,
lot of green screen.
yeah, but they're really good green screens. Like when she's at the dinner table. Well, that might be Act 2. It doesn't matter. They do a good job. I'm putting it up later. But
Yeah.
the parts where they're superimposing two shots looks pretty good. The lighting matches generally to make it seem like they're actually there. So, pretty good. Sprunk.
When Jeff enters the house with the hose a little earlier on, the sound effect of the hose plays before it goes off.
Also, nobody reacts to the fact that he walked in with the hose.
Oh, no,
Also,
he's
he
a
walked in
chaotic
with a
child.
hose.
Yeah.
What are you saying? You can't walk into a house with a hose?
I'm just saying anybody would know that Jeff would fucking is intending to do something with that because they live with Jeff.
It's possible you can bring a hose in the house. But freaking Jeff, man, has no care in the world.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not my issue. Is not they break the hose into the house. It's just that nobody reacts to it until he turns it on. Because everyone would
That's the other
see
thing.
it.
It's not a hand levered hose, is it? It's just open, like just a normal blank end hose. So he turned it on outside and walked inside and had to time it.
Well, I mean, he could have put a kink in it. I didn't see how he turned it on. So maybe something to look back on. My thing with the hose was just the spray was not a hose spray at all.
No,
on them, it was
mist.
weak, mist. Yeah, it was very peculiar.
And of course, Concepcion screaming bloody murder.
I mean, that is her core trait.
Dancing and screaming.
Yeah.
No, her core character trait is Latina stereotype. There we go.
This was after the grocery store bit, and I wrote, "Where are the kids?" The shopping cart incident. Where are the kids? And then we got the scene of the kids with we just said her name, concession.
Deodorant or
you
said the shopping cart. Where are the kids? To go to the car with the deodorant part?
The shopping cart incident that she calls it later when she smuggled out in the grocery bag.
Oh, okay. When she's small. Got it.
Yeah. The grocery store incident, as they called it. I wrote, where are the kids? Because at this point, the kids have been around for a while. And I was like, why aren't we getting a reaction of the kids to her shrinking? The entire part of her shrinking, we don't see the kids up into them going to bed with concession, and I found that as standing out as weird.
That is my last note written for this act. Is where's the perspective of the kids seeing their mom shrink? Because I agree, it kind of really focuses on Pat and the adults, and the kids are around.
Yeah, I'm kind of in I actually take issue with that in a more a character sense because that's kind of a reaction we need to see in the storytelling sense because it would be a traumatic event or an important event and to see that their mom was shrinking, you know, because they clearly love her. They've established this. We just don't get anything kind of to push it forward, which is weird.
Yeah. We don't get it gradually as I think it should be. We get it as like kind of a concrete when the daughter goes, "Mom, are you gonna like keep shrinking?"
Yeah.
She goes, "No, it'll be okay." And that it's that one like jump to point of it. But at that point she's 2 feet tall, so
Yeah, we don't even know how long it's been because we have no framework.
there's no
This was
doctor or
before
anyone who
Christmas.
says, yeah, no one's judging like the time of like how much have you shrunk since then? When do you think this occurred? And then they're like, well, you have about 2 months before you're, gone. It's like there's nothing of that. Especially when her shrinking is in this movie, as we see, nothing for a good chunk, and then it cuts to very small, or it's where it's like, oh, a lot.
Mm-hmm. Inconsistent its portrayal, which can be to its benefit for not giving a time scale, but it is annoying at the same time.
You think that goes into plot armor?
Plot armor. Elaborate.
How, um, let's see, she can still get things done at a certain height, and then needs to ask for help because it gets too small in a cut, and then see what scenario she gets into at that height, and then how she can't go about things because of the size she's at, or in Act 3 when she's kind of locked, she can't weigh or any, like, it's depicted sizings for the choice of the story being told,
Well, not
especially
necessarily,
the
because
end when it's the quote unquote goodbye.
I feel like a lot of the scenes are applicable to different sizes. Like her making bacon, she could have done that as taller or shorter, but they did it at that height. I don't think that's height dependent. The height dependent thing would be her falling down the drain, but that kind of just works at that point in time because she obviously wouldn't fall down there if she's taller. She could fall in there shorter, but we don't get that. Dinner scenes. I feel like the scenes aren't scaled to her height. They just mesh fine with several sizes she could potentially be.
Okay. I'm just thinking about it.
Yeah, I was thinking about the I don't I think it's the scene where she is cooking dinner for them. She's already lost. Like she's like half her size and she's like on the counter like making pasta.
Oh, with the salad bowl.
Yeah. That's kind of the scene I went to for like the adaptations and changes she's making to try to do as much as possible herself. Uh, so I had a lot. I have some praise for that scene, but I also think that by the end of it, funny enough, I think that ADR was the most grating ADR I ever had.
Ooh, which one?
I think he was just talking about the salad bowl one, and she's like, "We're
Oh,
gonna have to eat
okay.
out again."
Yeah, when she falls over and says we need to eat out again, I think that whole sequence, that ADR really got to me. It's very grating.
It was a pretty bad one. I'll agree.
Okay.
You got some other ones, Sprinks? You
Well, I was just curious, like the most standout ADR, and if that one was to writer.
Yeah,
The one to
there's a few
me,
other ones, yeah.
the one to me that stood out was in the car with Vance about the wedding ring, and at 23:25, she says, "You stay calm," and it's her head movements of like how I guess stress she is in the moment do not fit the tone of the voice.
Okay. I'll for the audience, I have it up, so I've been checking these timestamps. I agree with your assessment. I didn't pick up on that one. But on that scene, it is a decent visual gag, I guess, with the wedding ring, referencing, as long as you got this ring on, nothing will change. Plop, it falls off.
It is such a setup punchline that fell flat for me. Nothing will change as long as this fits, and then immediately falls off.
I can see why I can see the joke aspect to it again, just as well. Didn't really land for me as the ha laughter. What did though was right before that with the woman screaming in the cardboard boxes. They just walk out calmly. That got me.
I could tell what this movie was turning into, because that to me felt like a scene out of the movie Ron. Or like Kung Pao or something. Like I couldn't tell where this movie was going.
No, I agree that just thrown in there is so random and does set up like a parody level film where it's just some random throw-in joke. But it fits, I guess. I don't know. It's a little odd that they didn't react to it, but
well, that's the part that makes it that parody feel.
Yeah.
That they're just
just another day at happening. Institute.
Yeah.
At the Kleinman Institute, which apparently Klein in German means small, so there was some intent with that name.
Oh.
Found that in my
study of
research.
Unexplained phenomena. Science is truth found out.
Science is truth found out. Yeah. Good title there. Let's go with Sprinks.
Okay. This is funny coming out of me, I guess. Just a little difference. I have a writing problem, and it's not dialogue.
Okay.
I think with how big the story of her being an incredible shrinking woman, and that's the story, is how stupid they make the oops, I dropped something on you.
Oh, the perfume bottle with the perfume robe?
Oh, smell this. Oops, I got it on you.
Okay.
I didn't find it believable. I found it
convenient.
Too rushed. It's very silly. That's funny because it's a very silly movie, but I just thought it could have been more smartly done.
I think it's fine the way it is, but I do agree it's a bit underwhelming, lacking, and not well executed either. Because the way he does it, it's not like she bumped into him and he does it. The actor does it. It's not well
smell
executed.
This, and he purposely like pours it on her.
Yeah,
he doesn't even like move it to her nose.
Yeah, it's very convenient. I'm in agreement. I think, in retrospect, that scene is helped a little bit by the fact that we cut to the dress like glowing later, but it's weird. It's convenient that it happens this way. It definitely pushes the plot in a very specific direction.
It also brings up an issue because we find out that the reason she's shrinking is because it's a combination of everything she touches, or products, water, everything. Every chemical she comes in contact with, that concoction has caused this. But the perfume touching the robe caused the robe to glow and smoke, which implies the perfume did it. But that's not what we're told what the cause of the shrinking is.
Yep.
Hey,
so
okay, this might be another moment of Sprink saw the movie differently than everyone else. Crimson, are you saying everything she came in contact with that the doctor said is what caused the shrinking?
He's
That's what
saying
they claim. Yeah.
the concoction of everything in her life has caused this chemical reaction of her shrinking.
Okay. That's not how I saw
Down
it.
to the tap water.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw that as the doctor giving examples of what could have caused a combination effect to cause the shrinking, because they don't have an answer.
This product would have been tested on animals or other people before Pat.
Yeah, the
I
individual of
did
the
what he
perfume.
did. So there would be other cases other than her if it was just the perfume.
Yes.
So I don't think it's the perfume. I think it's what the
No.
doctor
It's not
said.
the perfume on its own. But I don't see it as all 99 plus ingredients of what caused it. I thought it could be more of the unknown 15 ingredients. They just don't know what those 15 are.
Sure, it could be a blanket statement of everything. It could be the deodorant plus the tap water plus the cleaner plus the hairspray. That's it, but they don't know the combo. Sure,
That's how I saw
concede in
it.
that, but it's not just the perfume, which is what
No.
this robe is implying, which is an issue. Because why is the robe reacting
that
if
is
the
true.
perfume is just perfume?
Well, what's on the robe?
Perfume.
Not cleaning products or detergents or
It's not a concoction of 15
food.
things.
That I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
no,
so,
surely it's not. But
so just a problem, I guess, a red herring of sorts, because you're led to believe it was the perfume, but it doesn't make
it's
sense
also
knowing what it is now.
it's also smoking, and Pat
Mhm.
never smokes out of her skin while shrinking.
And we're led to believe that the robe shrunk out of existence, right? She asked
Within
if
a
he took
day,
it.
possibly.
Yeah, yep, and that's inconsistent
Yeah.
because she
Ooh,
asked if
is it?
he moved it. He said no, she didn't move it. So it had to shrink by itself or the kids took it,
The
which would be weird.
materials of the dress are different that of human biology. And that's just a difference in tests. It could just be that. But,
Mhm.
well, no, because it was only on the dress. Never mind. I still stand with that.
And then it
Say
brings
again,
up
all are close, but
why doesn't the bottle shrink that the perfume's in?
because glass is a different consistency than clothing's or skin.
Well, it's because the perfume doesn't have a magical property. It's not
Yeah,
a thing.
I don't know what the reaction to any of the periodic table elements do to this concoction. But it just seems cloth and skin and glass all have different effects.
It's just perfume. All right. I brought up that point. I don't remember who. Then we'll go with writer.
All right. Let's see. I think the kind of more on the ring, I guess. The scene where the ring falls off. I actually quite like that they're kind of affirming of each other. It is it very much reaffirms their relationship together. Even though it is undercut by, I think that sentiment is undercut by the joke or the intended joke by the ring.
Interesting. I mean, I think it stands alone. I don't think it's really drugged down by the joke. I think it shows a lot for Pet as a character, actually, that she doesn't care about herself at all in this scenario. She's like, it's time for you to think of what this means for the family, for you. Uh, she didn't really talk about how it's affecting her, which is pretty good for a character trait.
Yeah.
I like the setting. That is the two of them secluded to have a talk. And it's not like in a public area or a lot of nosy people around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about the naming of the perfume, unless
I was just going to say, Crimson, I found in my notes, you asked where the hand toucher was for like the callback to Pat with the galaxy glue. My notes have it as 1605.
Okay.
And for the
audience, I didn't doubt
also
that you found that. Okay. The naming of the perfume, I think that Vance's Arise is far superior to Sex Pot. That I don't remember what the first thing he pitched was that she said sounded like food, or was that Arise? I don't remember. But Arise sounds like a great perfume name. I don't know. What do you guys think?
On the perfume names?
Yeah, Arise and
Ar-
Sex Pot.
Interesting. In this world, Sex Pot stands out better. In a real world reality, Arise sounds a lot better.
Yeah.
Sex Pot is definitely more of a comedic tone for them to be very serious behind, with a very where do I have that? A very direct, honest, hardcore approach.
Yeah, I'm thinking. I'm kind of inclined to agree. I think we could take on that, Springs. Um, the only way I would see, the only way I could potentially see Sex Pot working as more of a, is if it was for a particular niche in your marketing brand.
Yeah, it's not like Sex Panther from Anchorman, where it's like, this is the manly cologne.
Yeah.
I don't think it carves.
But again, that's also played as a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like I said, I think it could work. It could work in a different setting if we knew what the intended audience for that perfume was, or the intended consumer. But since we don't, I'm just gonna stick to what you said, Springs, which is I think that would be the best way to frame it. Sex Pot works for this world, but out of world, I think Arise would definitely take the cake on that one. It would be less offensive, and therefore people would like it more.
Especially if it's one of those commercials of like Johnny Depp running with wolves, or some lady waking up in Paris with a scarf around her neck in the wind, or something like that. Like one of those perfume commercials.
Yeah. Let's see what I got left in this. The Galaxy Glue commercial that happens pretty much after the height reveal of the slippers and stuff. The Galaxy Glue commercial comes on, which is another reference to there being a time jump, because we get the broken vase to pretty close after is this commercial.
Yeah, the
Obviously
sample
you got to
now a
produce it,
finalized product.
market it, and then make the commercial. So there's a time jump between the vase and the Kleinman Institute. We don't know the time, but it's a visual reference of a time jump. Keeping track of as many of those as we can.
Yeah.
A detail I liked with the commercial is that the whole family would gather around when, Vance the dad would have a new thing on TV, and they're like, "Oh, this is the product you're working on," and then it changes that it's now Pat on the TV a lot. So a little dynamic of change in the family, which is a slight reminder for me of Incredibles 2.
Please don't remind me of that movie.
Just a change in family dynamic.
Yeah, very, very much so.
Yeah. Sorry. I'll wait to be called on next time. The supermarket incident. I think that one worked for me. Like I didn't laugh at the gag, but I still was amused by it most of the way through it. I think it makes sense because we get a lot for Judith. We can see how Judith is now applying her meticulous sense to detail to all the chemicals. It's just spread around everything, and conversely, obviously, she's dragged her friend out to kind of I think it's meant as a kind of a thank you, like to help, and she's also contributing to help out and stuff like that. But obviously, the situation starts to turn, and we get the whole she's trying to get her out in the brown bag, and the people running the store think she's stealing something.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's good work on Judith, because like the first thing we're introduced to her with is her how natural products, and she just shows a whole bunch of different products. But now she's very meticulous in keeping those away, I guess.
Yeah,
She doesn't bring them back.
She's pickier, at least, in the sense of
Mhm.
like the ones that, assuming she would go the more natural route if she still is getting products and stuff like that.
Well,
Whichever
yeah, she
ones,
doesn't want to same thing to happen to her. What happened to Pat?
yeah. Uh,
I'm surprised that in 1980, bull scrotum could be found in cereal.
I know, very, very interesting. A little bit of testosterone in your cereal. But yeah, that was interesting.
I think, though, and the one that I think went maybe a little too far because the film does try to balance its humorous tone, but still tries to keep it grounded in world, you know? So it's a very hard balance when you're trying to do that. Maybe I think making her drive was a little too much for me. With Judith like helping give her directions while she's in the driver's seat.
It's a sake that nothing's showing how she can see.
Well, she can't see. That's the issue.
Yeah, but there's no like mere gag being played like she's looking at something to see or on a box or something
Yeah.
to try to look. It's just a clear shot of her of the steering wheel moving itself.
Yeah, I think that would help. Yeah, I know what you're getting at.
Or just have Pat saying brake, turn left. Treat her as a GPS.
Yeah,
But
it's not like the end of Ferris Bueller or towards the tail end where the old lady's like you can just see the tips of her eyes looking over the dashboard.
Mm-hmm.
This is just like nothing. This is essentially this car could be remote controlled like Benny in Halloween Town.
Okay.
Because I don't
Benny's
know if
car's
that's
remote controlled?
I think it was for the first movie.
Benny drove.
Benny's not real, Crimson.
Wow.
He's an animatronic.
He's a real animatronic.
He's a real animatronic. You got me there. We can agree on that.
He's real.
You and Sinister
world, right?
You and Sinister thought he was CG, which was mind-boggling.
The face
yeah.
looked great. No, I can't tell if the driving here of the background in the windows is green screened.
Yeah, and
I guess that's just
impressive.
because of the quality. I can't tell.
I mean, I would hope they're not on a real road with an empty seat. That would be.
But if it's like a sanctioned off road for the shot.
Yeah, I don't know how they achieved it. Which I think is
with $10 million budget, I don't think they're going out in live driving like that. Just in case.
Would have certainly painted a different picture.
How's everyone's notes looking for Act 1?
Empty. The grocery store was the last tidbit I had.
Oh. What about you,
This ends with Cartier singing the song, right? Or just after that?
Yeah, just after that.
Conception. I said concept. What the fuck?
You did. I knew what you were.
Conception. Conception.
Yeah, Conception. I do, because Concepcion is kind of a background character for that particular scene. I do like that it shows that even though she is a bit distant, she still cares about the kids and she still like feels a part of the family, even if she's not 100% there all the time, you know.
Yeah, even though she does kind of drift away later as Pat was narrating.
Yeah.
Even the fame was getting to her, whatever.
Yeah. But I do like that she still cares about the kids. So she's the one singing. It's a nice little detail that I appreciate. Good stuff.
Yeah, I think that's good for her with what little character she does have. She's willing to sing for him.
Trying to find. I'm lost in my notes now, and I'm trying to find where that all again.
Don't worry. I can talk about something while you're reading. The thing that what's the daughter's name? I don't think I ever wrote the daughter's name.
She has a name. Find it.
I know. I don't. I have Jeff. I think.
She's a character.
Right, well, I think the daughter's like, what's the worst thing that could happen, or what's worse than this, or whatever. And Pat doesn't really give an answer. Like, well, she could die. I don't know.
There's far worse things that could happen.
Yeah. She could just be constantly vomiting.
She could have been poisoned.
There
She
could
could
be
have died
so
the next
many
morning.
things that are worse than this. But she couldn't come up with any. And obviously she could be like, she doesn't want to scare her kids or something. Maybe. I don't know.
It could be the opposite. She could be growing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wink, wink. And because the 10 mil keeps getting brought up, I decided to throw it into an inflation calculator. It's about 36 million today's standards.
So
Got a
real indie
modern
film.
framework.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much done with this act as well. So, writer, anything else?
I think I'm good. We talked. Well, I guess there's some quick plot beats that happen in this act. I think we have we cut to see her like sitting really small in the couch chair while she's talking with while her husband Vance is talking to his boss, and how he's essentially talking them out of going public because they want to introduce how they would rather introduce her as someone who is cured rather than who someone all the chemicals are to blame, more or less.
Yeah, wait for the antidote.
Yeah. So that's introduced, and I think that just needs to be mentioned. And then the last bit I've got, I think, is they change the name of the town, right? Or like they don't I don't change the name. They add that moniker, Home of the Incredible Shrinking Woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and the government spying on her. There you go. Now I'm done.
Yes, the government spying on her.
Or the Organization for World Management. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. All right, on to Act 2 then, which is from the neighbors grabbing attention / concessions singing to the first funeral with the matchbox. Whole lot to cover here. Not as much as first for me personally. We'll start with Sprinks.
This $10 million budget, I'm sure a good amount went to the Mike Douglas show. Little shocked to see that here.
Yeah,
like I just went, oh, interesting. They got a real thing. If this movie takes place when it came out in 81, then this is the last year of the Mike Douglas show. Because it ended in 81. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it fits then still.
True.
Imagine if this was the last show that he ever did. Like they were in the middle packing up the studio, and they're like, "Hey, can we film with you real quick?" Like, oh,
it
sure.
could have been. It could have been the show's over, and the studio was still set up, so they asked for the film to film it.
Yeah, who's to say? It's interesting how that lines up. But presumably this would be filmed in 1980, which would be a year before the show ends. Yeah. So it probably wouldn't be near the last episodes. But still cool nonetheless. Right. Writer.
Yeah, I will jump to the matchbox scene. I think I mentioned it. My favorite joke in the whole film was Judith's just deadpan. No one will ever fill her shoes. That one, I actually had to pause the film because that one got me to laugh pretty well.
Oh, nice.
Interesting.
Yeah,
the subjectivity of humor.
Yeah, it's pretty much dead.
Because that's like a low-hanging fruit joke, but those can sometimes be the hardest hitting.
Honestly, it's such a. Don't get me wrong. I think character-wise, it's very cruel of Judith to say that. But and I don't know if that's in character, but man, it worked well for the audience on timing on that one. I think that was pretty good.
Okay. That joke annoyed me.
Oh, I'm sure it did, but
yeah. I just went, oh, shut up.
That was not your timestamp?
I'm like, this is not the time or place to be saying things like that.
Yeah, that was like I said, that was definitely. I think it's an objectively well written joke, but I think you're completely within your rights to be annoyed by it.
I wrote, I can't believe this is the second thing we've covered on the podcast with a matchbox funeral.
Yeah, it's not the first.
Pinocchio
Yeah.
had it with spoilers.
If I had a nickel for every time,
Spoilers.
if I had a nickel every time I was watched a Matchbox funeral, I'd have 2 nickels, which is not a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
Yeah. Sprinks, I don't know who's seen that. Okay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, man.
I shall jump to the dollhouse where she's in the dollhouse at this point that I'm referencing. And she has the tape recorder that I thought was a piano, and I had to scratch off my notes and do tape recorder.
Uh-huh.
Oh, you got something to add?
Is it too small?
The tape recorder too small?
Yeah. Like, cause I'm thinking at her height for a normal height, like Vance, are those like someone's thumb would go over 3 of those buttons.
I think it's borderline. It's a fair critique. I'm not sure. It's a decent sized dollhouse, and the recorder is larger than the door, and we can see their hands in relation to the door when they're holding it. So,
No, when Pat's whole hand is on one button.
mm-hmm.
I think the buttons are too small. It's a great prop. I'll give that movie credit where it's due. The set design and the props are wonderful to show the sizing.
Yeah.
It's been a while since
You
I've
might
looked at
be
it
right.
properly.
It might be a little small, but I
Shockingly
don't think
enough,
it's impossibly too small.
Shockingly enough, it's been a while since I've looked at a tape recorder, so I have no opinion either way right now.
It could be a kid's tape recorder. Those happen.
It could be. Yeah, like the Macaulay Culkin one, the Talk Boy or whatever.
So yeah, fair observation on the sizing there. But the dollhouse itself, I think they did a good job making it look like a dollhouse from the inside. The carpet being like a carpet print and not an actual carpet was good. I liked the Ken doll, I guess. Wasn't a fan of the limbs being flimsy, because usually those aren't flimsy, they're stiff plastic limbs. Or they had like the rubber ones that kind of stay stiff when you move them. This was like full of like stuffing or something.
Yes. That
not
was
impossible.
No, that one's okay to me because I've seen toys like that. To me, the impossible part was that there's like wires in the arms to keep them in place. Because I don't think that was of the time.
Yeah, I'm not knowledgeable enough to say, but it's certainly possible. But I don't know. But good job, I think. Set design, as you already complimented throughout this whole film, I think is pretty darn solid.
With the tape recorder, though, goofy effect. I mean, good detail that when she replays it, it blares her eardrums out. But the earthquake effect in the room isn't focused from the audio point. It earthquakes the room, and everything's just moving in random directions.
Well, it's also that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
No, it would be to the beats of the high decibels of movements.
It's also physically just impossible to happen.
Yeah. The cassette player would not have physically moved the toys in that dollhouse. It's not that loud. It would be loud to her because her eardrums are small, I guess. But the room wouldn't shake. That wouldn't happen.
This is going to tie into one of my issues that they're very inconsistent with, because Pat just talks / yells normally at people when people's perception of her voice would change due to her size. And then they're not consistent with that throughout the film at all. So like there are scenes where she does have to speak up and yell, and people will, take longer to notice, but there are other times where she's just talking to them normally as if she has a normal voice now still, like as if they can hear her normally.
It'd be a good scene if someone asked, "What did you say?" Like, speak up, because that never occurs.
what happens is they ignore her because they can't hear her. Which
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
agree, writer. They are
Well,
inconsistent with.
I tell her that to the kids. When she's yelling and screaming at the kids and they're not hearing her, I played that more into them ignoring her.
oh yeah, I'm referring more. And I'm not referring to that. I'm referring more to like when.
But like the dinner scene at the table when she's talking normally and they can hear her fine, I
Yeah.
just went, okay, it's quiet and she's the only one speaking. But even still, it would be very soft.
Yeah.
Well, she's yelling at concession before she turns the music back on.
Yeah, she's yelling at
Uh,
Concepcion before she turns the music back on. And
Yeah.
Concepcion would hear her because everyone else has heard her speak normally anyway. So it's just they're not consistent with it, and it bothers me with that because it would have been cool if they were consistent with that.
yeah, I can agree with that. I'm going to point out the thing I think is the dumbest thing in this movie. And I'm curious you guys will agree.
No one's in this
And I'm
act.
sure you had it written down. Yeah. The fact that they need her blood. That's the whole point, is they need her blood.
To make a
After
bioweapon.
doing every single test imaginable to mankind, they didn't keep blood of hers.
They didn't keep any records.
No records. They didn't keep a vial of her blood. They have nothing. They have to resort to kidnapping her to get her blood. And even when they had her, they didn't take her blood. They just kept her in a cage in a room. That's getting into their dark stuff. But we find out here they need her blood, which is absolutely absurd because they should have it.
Yes, and nothing's explained why they can't. Like, there's no, like, if they have it on file, but, like, the different agency or whatever, it's like, oh, that's already in the government and we can't access that. We need to get a new sample or something. Like, that's never explained. Or when they do have her kidnapped, it's not like, oh, the needles are too big. We need to find something smaller, work on something that bides time. Like, there's nothing explained of any of that. It just doesn't happen.
Yep. Well,
So I
think
agree with you on that. That's pretty bad.
It's the entire motive of the bad guys. And it
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense.
I'm just over here nodding. I agree. Don't get me wrong. I love my cartoonishly funny evil villains as much as the next person, but you know.
Well, Dr. Eugene's assistant's name is Ruth.
Yeah.
So it's very cartoony.
It's ruthless Ruth.
Ruthless Ruth.
Yeah.
Was that it?
Ruthless Ruth.
I thought it was just Ruth.
No, it's Ruth.
Here's my colleague, Ruth.
Yeah, it's just Ruth. I just adding another joke onto it because it's pretty. The whole World Organization of Management or whatever the fuck. I wrote it down.
It's a great
once.
name.
Yeah.
Organization of World Management.
It's pretty Austin Powers name. I liked it.
Yeah.
I think this is gonna be weird. It reminded me of Daniel Craig's James Bond movie, the World Organization.
Which one?
The Spectre.
Oh.
Because there was a big like shadowy council room scene, in that one, and that one always sticks out in my mind because that one's very intentionally filmed to like hide the face of the antagonist up until a certain point.
I'm going to own up to a cinema crime. I've never seen a James Bond movie.
I'll keep my mouth closed until we cover a James Bond movie.
Let's go with Sprinks.
There is a sign in the crowd at the Mike Douglas show that I found real funny when everyone's like holding up the signs. One says "Stand tall, Pat."
Yeah.
Hold your
They're pretty good signs.
Yeah.
At all.
Also, the Pat Kramer fan club looks like every family collective of like the Family Feud. Like those wild, insane, energetic families that are all like in matching clothes.
Yeah, they enter from stage right.
Yeah. Or, you know, when the Price is Right camera, if you've seen that, goes around all over the whole crowd and then zooms in on the focused people.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the people.
Yeah.
Kind of an offshoot from that scene. going with Vance and his boss going in the back, where he's essentially trying to talk them out of. I guess it was oddly filmed, and oddly paced, because I think most of what Vance's boss says is a good argument, though I think it was still. My note on it is that it was almost too fast. Like it, there's a point in the conversation where he just kind of skips to the next subject without any like filler in between it.
Yeah,
Um,
very salesman.
yeah, which again it fits, but there was no transition of the argument, if that makes sense. So I didn't follow you from point one to point two. You just went from point one to point two. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's
No,
a
I agree with that because he also there's a line said like this whole dinner scene's plan A, and then they get in the car and it's like, guess we're going to plan B.
and the
And
plan B was
then
just a phone call.
there's nothing of plan B. I don't even know what plan B is. And they go back and they go plan C.
Yeah, plan B is just a phone call, I think, which is kind of weird. Anyway, so back to the conversation where Vance's boss is trying to talk him out of them going public with all the chemicals and stuff like that. It was like I said, the conversation was a little too fast, and while I still like the scene in concept, it was just filmed oddly because we don't see her husband's reaction to eventually giving into the argument, because presumably he gives into the argument because she doesn't say anything.
Well, she's also drowned in alcohol.
No, I'm
So she's
referring.
not
I'm
very
referring
of
to the
sound
show.
mind. Oh, at the show. Okay, yeah. Of her
Yeah, I
thought
get.
process on that.
Yeah, I'm referring to the show. But yes, that scene is also a little bit off to me. I'm referring more to the Vance and his boss arguing at the show, and then we don't really see her husband's reaction to eventually getting talked out of it, which I think it's one of those things where uh, they're not very good at keeping us where we need to see the characters react to things, because we didn't see the kids interacting with her changes. And I think this is one too, because right now her husband's more or less on her side, and we also don't see her talking her out of talking about the chemicals. We just kind of cut to it. It was very, very weird as far as pacing and character structure. Because they see the skeleton, I just don't have anything to go anything off of.
Yeah, I agree. Her not going with the plan of announcing that it was the mixture of the product, the perfume or whatever, on her own without Vance telling her the conversation he had with his boss does stand out as being odd, because from the audience point of view, she just made up her own mind there without any outside influence.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's no follow up like consequence or conclusion of like a conversation between the two over the matter. It's just moved on.
Yeah.
Like they're both in the same mindset, but it's not discussed of the changes they both had.
Yeah. It would be one thing if they acknowledge it afterwards. Like, like they could both be regretful over the fact that they let themselves be talked out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Just, just wasted potential. And it was very oddly paced as far as film work and character work isn't there.
This movie is oddly paced.
Yeah.
I'll certainly give it that.
I'll bring up a point of gravity. I don't know, this little thing that we have on Earth, it appears to be in this movie as well.
Oh dear.
And you would think a tiny little pat that gets launched off a pillow
Oh yeah, her next
to a height that is probably 10 times her height, possibly more, falling to the ground.
She's
essentially falling
is
10
dead.
stories. Oh yeah, she snapped her neck.
But she doesn't land on something soft. She lands on like
on
a
skateboard
rollerblade.
thing. I don't know what it was. One of those mini skateboards, I think.
Hard plastic. That's what she. Yeah.
I agree. I wrote she died. Congratulations, Rip Pat.
Yeah.
This is where the funeral should have taken place.
I will give it. That was a very humorous tone shift, though. It was very sultry music and romance and lawning of her husband, of like how much he cares, to just a pillow hit and joke and screaming. And you're screaming. What a weird way to yell.
Dude, and her face. Yeah, the face and the screen.
Yeah, her
I-
mouth
both
just going
weird.
up and down. I don't know if that was ADR.
I cannot confirm, but I legitimately thought there was a shot where she was a puppet, not a person.
I don't.
I don't know.
The only thing that comes to mind with that is in the third act when she's hanging on the rope at the stand.
Maybe.
Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's a kind of amusing because of how interesting it is. But Franks, I'm surprised you didn't say with it that you had an issue with like the number of cuts that happened there. There was 9 cuts.
It's a lot of cuts, and it's just to like clear up, I guess, the movement of like what they could use. So it's not like shown like it's on a dolly or the skate she's on. Like I guess it doesn't show the full skate or whatever she is on. So I don't think they had a full prop of it and just like a portion of what's being moved. So I think the cuts are to cover all that up, but it's very apparent.
Something a good choice with the camera with this pillow scene is her getting launched. I think if they had like a POV of her screaming in the air, it would not nearly be as funny as the wide shot of the bedroom of just her tiny little figure getting flung to the doorway.
I can agree with that. They could have saved it with a point of view shot of the camera just up in the air spinning. But
yeah, but the far away shot just to set the scene and to set scale was pretty good.
Yeah. I agree.
I have a little nitpick about something. It's believable, but the fact that there are so many kind of hinders it for me. When she's being escorted by the robot to the closet, every single toy says its name on activation.
Okay. I'm just was impressed by the sheer amount of clumsiness that she has.
Yeah. I like the costume for the rabbit. I didn't write down the name of the rabbit, but I thought it was pretty good. One of the toys in the lower left corner, I don't remember what it was, but they were already kind of moving when she entered the closet, like the actor in the suit was kind of moving. But it was good. Where I don't know where it is in my notes. The peeing doll, that one said its name too, and that was what a weird.
They all said
toy.
their name on activated. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to look at my notes for what the name of the doll was. I don't know where we're at. But I don't know. Interesting that the doll did have pants on or a diaper or something, but it still like really peed on her face. And that's a line that's been said on the podcast.
Yeah, it had a skin tone, I think, coloring to it, but I think you need to put like a diaper, or like the toy design is to put a diaper on it, and it didn't have one. But yeah, it's interesting that she gets doused in the face more than once in this movie as like a kind of a I didn't know if it was going to turn into a running gag, but then it stops.
I feel like the only running gag was, is it Dave? Dan, the boss. Dan kept calling her Pam instead of Pat.
Okay, that's another thing. I thought Dan didn't know people's names because I thought that I didn't know Vance's name because I thought he kept calling him Lance. But then Pat's calling him Vance, and I'm like, okay, is this another name back and forth thing?
I always picked up as him calling him Vance, but I don't know. Yes, but he definitely calls Pat Pam.
Yeah, I'm definitely heard the Pam one. I think she does. I think he does call her Pam most of the film. I think that was the main running gag.
I mean, even at the end when she comes back, the big reveal, he still calls her Pam. Yeah. I was like, that's awesome. He didn't grow during this at all. He still doesn't know her name.
Well, he's still not as evil, but he does turn himself in.
I don't know if I would call him evil.
Self-interested.
Yeah.
He didn't want her to be hurt or kidnapped. He didn't want to shrink the world.
He just wanted to sell.
Yeah. He's a money man.
There's a pathway to evil. I think the organization World Management would be evil, and then he's like halfway there, I guess.
Okay. To me, he was
Evil
like a Mr.
adjacent.
Krabs character,
Evil adjacent, sure.
doing things for a penny, but I wouldn't call Mr. Krabs evil.
No, he's just a bad guy.
Yeah.
We're bad guy doesn't mean we're bad guy.
Ooh, Zangief. Where did I thought it was a little dumb that Pat didn't remove the puppet on her head when she knocked herself out into the wall.
That was a cool callback because it was the puppet that was brought up earlier. The airport present. Yeah, airport. Did I just say airport?
You sure
airport,
did.
Presence.
Was the puppet
is
downsized?
I don't think it was downsized, but I think its proportions were changed. Like it was a thicker felt in the real life one, but now it's like this thin, flimsy material because they had to scale it up for a person. I think size-wise it's right, but the size of the nose and arms are off to the original, I think.
It is a little weird though that she went all the way kind of from the closet, or at least the bedroom, down the hallway still wearing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they have a dog in this, and they never do anything with the dog.
Oh, they do. They get
do.
rid of it.
They get rid of it.
Well, yeah, they get they get rid of it. That's it. There's no dog gags.
Yeah, my note was like, man, if only I cared about the dog.
It's like the daughter scene again, or watching the kids see her shrink. It's just like, where's the explanation? Oh, there's the explanation. It just cuts to it.
Yeah, there's
no
nothing like it playing with her like a toy, or her riding it around the house or something. There's nothing.
You just have her running past the camera screaming, and they're like, we had to get rid of the dog.
Yeah, very lackluster. Lost opportunity. But that might be the budget constraints.
Did you guys catch Pat's fortune of a fortune cookie on the table after the dinner meeting?
You'll meet a tall
You'll
stranger.
meet someone tall or something?
Yeah, you will meet a tall stranger at 4658.
It's not untrue.
But nice little on the nose. Yeah.
Very much on the nose, indeed. The guy that kidnapped her, because you had the one guy distracting Conception, and then somebody else broke in and took her. How the heck did they manage to find her in such a short amount of time?
Oh, they could hear her.
They had no intel to where she was.
Yeah, evidently, they heard her just immediately, unlike everybody else.
I was like, yeah, they heard her. No one else can. So that was a bit outlandish. The amount of time required to find her. If we heard her in the background screaming like, "No, don't get away" or something, intruder. I don't know.
Yeah, they knew exactly where she was.
Mm-hmm. Which they shouldn't, based off of what we get. They have no intel.
Well, all we kind of have is there's another spy. So that is played for like Synthwave Smith, which is just what I have him, is the one spy. I'm like, okay, he's one. And then there's earlier a second spy in a car, like with binoculars watching the house. I'm like, okay, so there's two. So it helps to explain in this scene that there are two spies, but there's no like cameras in the house or watching through the window or anything.
Presumably, they just monitor the house. Is what they do.
Yeah.
See if she's in the house, something like that.
She hasn't left. I guess that's all they got.
Yeah, I think all the spies are also like the other council members on the Organization for World Management, assuming that they're all like in it together, and they're the ones doing on the ground spy work, which is good for them, I guess. You don't really see that very often.
Take matters in their own hands.
I will say I do. On a much smaller note, I quite like the. You brought up Crimson, but Vance's boss. I like that he wants to back out of the plan once he learns they plan to shrink the world or whatever. He's like, I'm not in, like he's not interested in that. I like that he tries to, like, it crosses a moral line for him. I appreciate
And
that.
they're gonna make a bioweapon.
Yep.
I don't. Ooh, this movie took a turn.
How do we turn this evil? Just a couple drops in the local water supply will
Yeah.
cripple the name. Whatever. Yeah, that's good stuff. Ryder, I think you put it like a timestamp for that, right? The whole evil plan.
Yeah, I did.
So I'm sure you got some things to say about it.
My thing to say about it really is just it was just comically evil, and that's pretty much it. That was my timestamp. I was just reacting to how comically evil. I'm like, okay, we're not doing corporate BS anymore, because I thought their original plan was to shrink everyone and then sell it a cure. I'm like, okay, corporate greed, yada yada, and then no, they just want to shrink the world. Oh, I have to go revise that.
Well, they're actually good guys because shrinking everyone will just make food plentiful. You know, one apple could feed a whole village. I know what movie you're thinking of, Sprinks.
Yeah, you're getting getting close to something else.
So they're just good guys in disguise, really.
They kind of are. They left a nice little calling called wreath on the dollhouse.
Was that them? I thought that was the funeral.
I thought that was the funeral too.
Oh, I thought that was them.
No.
I thought they kidnapped her and put a wreath on the door. And I went,
that changes so much if that's what they did.
I'm like, they left a calling card.
I don't think they would do that. But
I don't think so either, but it's funny to think about.
Oh, I really thought it was framed up in the sequences of shots that's what happened. Because it was before they're in the backyard. Otherwise, that's like a really hard cut tone shift.
She's dead. Cuts to the wreath on the door and then to the funeral, right? That's how that went. So I'm pretty sure it was post kidnapping. But that's funny to think about.
Because it cuts from that to the Matchbox funeral. So.
And I just pulled
it. It's Concepcion looking at the foot in the shoe in the drain, screaming, and then it cuts to a hand putting up the wreath.
Yeah, they're already out of the house by that point, so that wouldn't.
What a hard cut.
Be the spies.
I've seen harder cuts, but I agree. It's a rough one.
This funeral, I think, damages the heck out of Vance, or that's right. It's been a while since I've said his name.
Vance or Lance.
Vance.
Sure.
I felt like it damaged him. Why would he knew she didn't like being small, and yet he gave her a tiny funeral instead of a normal funeral in a cemetery with a full-size coffin.
A hamster.
Yeah. I'm really annoyed that he just didn't use any of her preceding articles of clothing to bury with, like, you know, in a box or something. That also bothered me.
They don't have a body.
Yeah. It was very weird.
She's a world-renowned, known person. It did seem a little weird to me that in the backyard there's no one around. Like, everyone's outside the house.
None of her neighbors there, because they're all, like, attached to her fame now.
Yeah, just Judith.
If they didn't want him there, then they wouldn't be there for trespassing purposes.
It's true, but...
if they made it into a joke of, like, showing cameras taking pictures over the fence or something, I think that would take away from it.
You also have Concepcion there, who kind of would be the lead suspect to a murder case.
I think they went with it was an accident.
I went, she should be fired.
A bit much, I don't know.
Unless she, like, it specifically look after the kids, don't look after Pat.
I mean, I wouldn't check the drain to see if my employer fell in. That just wouldn't be me. So I think most people would totally be okay with that accident happening, and then not blaming her for that. But yeah, I just felt like Vance would have given her a legit funeral and not this mockery, this tiny baby funeral of something she didn't like. She did not enjoy it. She lived most of her life as a full-size normal human, but her grave is of the tiny thing she did not like. Very peculiar.
I agree. I think the bacon earlier on that Pat pulls up to cook is the thinnest bacon I've seen in my life.
I wrote the same. I think that's the worst prop in this film.
I don't think it's bacon.
The bacon. It's
Yeah.
not bacon. It's a strip of paper or something.
I don't even eat bacon. I agree. That was some bad.
I'm like, no wonder it makes sense that it turns into smoke and there's nothing left.
It just fizzles away.
Yeah.
So quickly
Also,
as well.
5233 is, I think, the worst green screen in the movie of the smoke.
I didn't catch any issue. Let's see.
It is
50 what?
5233 when Pat's like watching Vance leave for work and the smoke coming off the bacon griddle is shadowed.
Oh, okay. I see. I mean, it's not horrible, but it's not good. A little bit. I would agree it's the worst green screen in this because the green screen overall has been pretty darn solid.
Yeah, there's no borderlines to be spotted, which is nice. But it is a lot of perception stuff. Like where one shot is just shot normally with like a reaction, and then the perspective angle shot to be green screened over. There are uses of that I think work a lot better than the singled out part to be lined up with the right proportioned shot look, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm following what you're saying. And we talked about how what's her face, Judith made the joke in air quotes of the no one's going to fit her shoes. We also have the news saying hope for the shrinking woman is down the drain. Well, that's distasteful.
what a line. But hey, they got the story.
Yeah, it's somewhat amusing. Distasteful. Could you imagine if they did that today with like a celebrity death and they're joking about the death like that?
They could do that. That's TMZ level.
That might be too much for TMZ. Out the gate. I'm sure over time they would totally.
I think it depends on the person who passed.
I suppose if it's a terrible person, I'm sure they would.
I'm sure there's a difference between Betty White and Johnny Knoxville. Not saying Johnny. Oh, I put that in the void. Sorry.
Well done.
But like the taste of humor that he has, I think might be more in the line to do something like that.
Betty White, as in Rose from the Golden Girls. I think she doesn't have a comedic bone in her body.
She has a comedic bone, but I guess that was a bad example. Maybe like
it's fine. We get what you're saying.
Yeah.
We got you. Very lucky or unlucky, I guess. I don't know. The shoe being left in the sink. I don't know why she would put it back on.
My only read of that is that it's like her foot. It's slippy. It's slippery in her shoes, so she gets more like.
That's what I took from it.
Yeah, she's able to balance herself up more easily without her shoes on.
Yeah, barefoot gave her more traction.
Yeah, I found.
Yeah, but it fell off at the top.
Oh, by the way, she also died. She also snapped her neck, by the way, on the fall.
It fell off. I thought she took it off.
No, it like slipped off her foot when she walked across the sink.
Oh,
so, pretty sure.
I thought she came out of the drain and was about slipping around the way, and she took it off. I thought that's, but
I know I'm looking at it. And the mountain of food that she was able to climb, not happening. It's not happening. The balance required, the amount of food required for how deep that is.
Yeah, she's dead.
The drain, the black plastic around the drain that she, like the triangle she pulls down to hold onto to climb herself up, she'd have to get to the level to hold that to pull it down. So her reaching up would already be past the drain or past the sink clog, I don't know what to call it, the circle. She'd have to reach above that to pull it down.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's off.
And it does slip off because she's shaking it off. So you're right. I was picturing when you said she takes it off as she uses her hands, but no, she does shake it off. The writer, I think it's been a minute since you posed something.
I believe it has been. I think I had a point that is now gone, but I will go on to the next point anyway. Yeah, she, as I said, she kind of snaps her neck on the way down. I think the fall was comical, I guess, but this is a subjective thing. Slapstick doesn't really land for me very much, so I didn't really find stuff like that I didn't find stuff particularly funny. And I think it's just convenient that Concepcion didn't just turn the fucking garbage disposal on.
Lucky timing, for sure.
True.
And I think you brought up an Apple Dumpling Gang. The slapstick doesn't typically hit you.
Okay, yeah. It does. It's got to be really well done. Like, slapstick that hits you out of nowhere can work for me. I think my favorite moment of slapstick, because I think it is slapstick, is actually from Red vs. Blue when Caboose throws the grenade into the wall. I think that moment is I think that would be that's slapstick that really landed for me because it would not only fit into the character, but I think it was just I don't know. It's hard to describe. I guess my feelings towards slapstick. I guess.
Right? Are you a Holy Grail fan?
Monty Python.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy Monty Python.
Because that's very slapstick.
It's very slapstick. Yeah. I think it's just because there's a lot of other things that are working with it too. I also am a huge fan of Arthurian Legend, which helps out tremendously. So, but yeah, the slapstick.
It's just a model.
Yeah, I do enjoy the slapstick in that as well. I don't want to think about it now.
Yeah, there's definitely some slapstick that. Slapstick is definitely an interesting humor, and I think some really work for me and some don't. The ones, sadly enough, that don't really work for me are Three Stooges stuff. But stuff that I think that does really work is like Kung Pao Into the Fist, or if you guys have seen Kung Fury, that's a bit slapsticky.
Yeah, I can agree.
Stuff like that.
Let's see. I shall jump to we touched on it a little bit earlier about how this is kind of a dated film, a period piece, and the reference to she's on all 3 networks. I'm like, there's so many people our age or younger that would have no idea what that even means.
That's
only
true.
3 networks.
That's very.
Which
What's
was
a network?
I think I only know Netflix. Is there more than Netflix and Disney Plus?
Cable still exists.
I think it was ABC, NBC, and CBS. I think I didn't fact check that, but I think that's what the 3 originals were. But it was an interesting thing. I just wrote down like, there's people that wouldn't understand what this means now. This is outdated.
It's those videos of people who are like, can you put in this VHS into the VCR? And they're like, I don't know what that is. Like, oh boy.
Is that texting lingo?
That's a really.
Is that LOL?
Yeah, really
BRB?
make it, okay. I don't want to attack audience members.
That's funny.
I could go further, audience.
Yeah.
To go.
Look, we're not Yunnings anymore. I think that's what we're saying.
Which one of you stole my cane this morning? I know it was one of you. It was the one with the tennis ball on the bottom.
Craig said it was Clark Gable. I think Judy Garland took it.
Judy Garland, yeah. My best friend, Judy Garland, over here.
Yeah, okay. And that's the end of that bit.
A bit over. Going into Sprinks having a point.
I don't have any more points for this act.
Oh, okay. A point I have then is a line that just didn't feel supported at all was the whole doll thing. Like, we had Vance say that they need the money and stuff. I'm like, when has that been an issue? You have a steady, good-paying job. You're recognized at your position. You're in a good house. We have no inclinations that they are struggling financially. But this doll thing, this will bring in the money we need. So that stood out as unsupported, and didn't like that. That didn't work.
I fibbed.
You fibbed. You lied. What'd you lie about?
Being popcorn style, I do have one last. No.
Okay. I guess anything on the money thing before your final point? Either of you?
No, it's just more corporate greed. More selling.
You speak from Vance?
Tactics. Well, just more things to get more money in, because I don't know. It just seems
he frames
like
it as
world.
we need the money. It's not that we want more money.
I think that's the influence of Dan, his boss.
Yeah, I take issue with that a little bit. It could be the influence of his boss. I agree with that. The issue that I would further attribute, though, is that's not something that's in character for what I understand Vance to be. So it very much could come down to that his boss just was slowly eating away with him. But it's one of those things that, like, we don't see anything about that eating away with him because we keep cutting away from their interactions. So if we had seen, for example, the whole scene of Dan talking Vance out of going public with all the chemicals, that would at least lend to the credence that it could be greed as a potential ally, just by virtue of the fact that he's near Dan most of the time.
Continue.
Yeah, but because we don't see setup for stuff like that, I'm more inclined to believe it's a problem because they don't really set up the fact that they need the money. Because right now, Vance is the money holder. Like, she was a stay-at-home mom. Like, if she had been working a job herself, that would be something too.
If they had Dan say a line while he's pitching the doll idea of, I know money must be tight after you having to pay for all those tests at the Institute, because that would make sense within context. Getting charged for these tests because greedy companies and whatnot. And that would explain why he does need the money for the doll idea, I think. And it would be a quick, like, one-line thing. I guess we can go on to Sprinks' point.
Yeah, and there was just a weird edit at 45 minutes where it cuts from, I think, the doll or the puppet over Pat when she knocks herself out to go to the table where she's drinking out of the thimble. When it cuts to her drinking out of the thimble, it's in slow motion. And I don't know if that's there because they didn't have enough film, so they made it into slow-mo so the transition can fully go through its animation.
It might be that. I didn't actually notice that, so I don't know.
It was just interesting that was a slow motion used shot. Just, I think, to get that cut in the movie. Or that the shot of it was too short, and that to get the animation, they would have gone over that whole scene before it finished.
Yeah, It's probably the way that you're envisioning it. Writer, how's your notes?
Yeah, I'm scamming still. Scamming. That's funny.
Scamming.
Scam.
All right.
I still think oh, we kind of touched on what Plan B was. What did you guys think Plan B was? Because I just thought it was the phone call, like just checking back in, like, hey, this is not going to be a permanent offer or whatever.
That's how I viewed it, was the phone call, because I don't think there's anything else that happened in between that and Plan C being enacted.
I guess that's what it has to be, but I took it in that was still a continuation of Plan A.
It definitely feels like a continuation of Plan A because it's so minute.
Yeah, it seemed like it was just more to Plan A and not a completely different plan. And then they go to Plan C, and I'm like, I don't know where Plan B was at all.
I think Plan A was just the talking in person. Plan B was the phone call.
They're not so much plans as they are just steps to something. And I
Pretty
think
much.
I think that's
what I'm picking up as the issue.
Yeah, maybe
for
that
me.
might just be the poor word choice.
Let's see. Another prop issue, because we talked about the bacon not looking like bacon, is the cigarette, which the huge one she puffed, which was kind of amusing. And then it's the same one that Conception threw down the drain, was far smaller when it hit her in the head. Not nearly the same proportions. So that was just
if it was the same proportion, she could have just used the cigarette to climb out.
True.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, the chemicals affected the cigarette, and it started shrinking.
Oh, it started shrinking. Ooh. She put her mouth on it. Her saliva contains it. You're right.
But she kissed Vance, and he wasn't shrinking.
Well, he's not a cigarette.
Yeah, he's a human body. Human
That's
bodies
right.
function
You know what? You
differently.
got me.
Then yeah.
You're right. You're right. I already brought it up with the whole glass and the. Yep, you're right.
Let's see, I felt like I had one last one. Ryder, any more?
I again kind of a tender moment. I'll jump to the dollhouse with her laying on Ken, kind of, because she wishes she could cuddle with her husband, and then she wakes up shrunk again. Kind of a small detail I like because this is the closest she's getting to a normal life right now is with a doll.
Yeah.
It's certainly a sad, touching moment.
Yeah.
And a little scary.
And I guess it's the stuff like that that really that grounds what would be absurd concept films like this a little bit. This would at least ground us in the characters.
I agree. Right. I could not find what my other point was, so I guess that's 2. On to Act 3, which is the funeral to the very end. And we shall start with May. We'll go with the monkey, because
Not
funny
quite.
story with the.
Not quite Andy Serkis as Caesar, but it's.
It's an ape, mind you.
Yes, you're right.
Some people are like, a monkey.
You're right. It's pretty darn good. The makeup, the mannerisms, the acting of the gorilla is pretty good. There's some parts where you're like, okay,
definitely a bodysuit.
Like that's a person. But the movements are pretty darn solid, I'd say, for a gorilla. And the funny thing I connect with this gorilla is my mom, up until
She thought it was real.
It was real.
Of course.
Yeah, she thought it was a real gorilla.
No judgment.
Which is a testament to how good it is. I mean, it looks pretty darn convincing, I would say.
It's a good-looking gorilla.
The makeup artist, whose name I already forgot that I said in the fact section. So
I think the only problem I have with it is the hands. They're very gloved movements.
I suppose.
Works for the time, but would be updated for something like today, I think.
Yeah, because today the makeup would probably apply directly to the hands, while this is probably just gloves.
Oh, they would just CGI it today. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, okay. You're right.
Ooh,
10 years
interesting
ago,
question.
it would be makeup.
Does this gorilla, does Sydney look better than the makeup for Planet of the Apes? Not the CGI Andy Serkis, but like the original.
Oh, this is absolutely better than Planet of the Apes.
Is it better than Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes?
I forgot Tim Burton did Planet of the Apes.
Probably.
Because that was a decade after this movie, at least.
I mean, I always thought the faces in Planet of the Apes looked bad, so I'll just say this one still looks good.
I'm looking at images now for Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes. Yeah, some of the faces are really off.
So I'd say, yeah, this is better. I think this is one of the best ones.
Yeah, for normal gorilla look, this one I think is a better one than most of what I'm looking at right now.
I'm trying to remember Baby's Day Out. Daddy's Day Out. Jesus. Baby's Day Out. That one had a gorilla too, but it's been a long time since I've seen it, and I don't remember how that one compares.
There's also a gorilla in Old Dogs, and I think that was a real gorilla.
Oh, well, then that one would probably win.
You got me there.
Yeah.
No, I think the fake one looks better. I don't know what you're talking about.
You know what? Maybe.
The eyes have more soul behind them.
From what I remember, Old Dogs was a really bad movie.
I was going to crack a joke about, hey, you can't dox Andy Serkis' Caesar, because he does put his whole soul into those mocap roles.
He's great. I didn't want to compare the two because that's fully CGI.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I'll go with Sprinks.
Oh, boy. I would have liked it if the movie ended at 59 minutes and 30 seconds. I'll just say that. Let's see here. The document of Pat's name, or her file, is 666X23. Yep. I'm sure that was not connected or what they meant to connect to it. But I went, oh, that's interesting. And that's 1 hour, 5 minutes, 55.
You're the comic book guy. Did that come first or after this?
Ooh, X23 would have been.
X23 is kind of a newer.
Yeah, because I think I don't think this is referencing that.
No, it's definitely not a reference to it. It's just in there.
You're just making a personal connection to it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, what I'm seeing or finding is X23 wasn't introduced until 2003.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely new.
So over 20 years later.
Yeah. This predicted it, actually. This was the origin of her name.
This is the inspiration.
Do you guys read the papers in Pat's folder when she was going through it?
No.
If I had more time when watching this, I would have.
I read some bits, but no, I didn't read all of it.
Okay. One of them at 1 hour 6 minutes was the theory of hereditary on guinea pig's offspring pigment.
I read the guinea pigs part because I think the camera zoomed in on that. But
okay. I was just like, how is that connected to what's Pat going through?
I think she's in the guinea pig's apartment, if that makes sense. Like she's there to be tested on or whatever.
Yeah, she is a guinea pig, but I don't know the pigment of offspring where that's going with her.
Oh.
Well, remember they were testing everything with her, so they could be checking her history as well.
Could be.
Her bloodline.
Or products that she was possibly combined with other experiments of testing they had on animals prior of different changes or something. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, perfumes do get tested on animals, or at least they used to. I don't know nowadays with all that. But so the guinea pigs referenced could be the ones that were testing the perfume. Definitely possible. Yeah. All right. Ryder.
I love intern guy. He might be my favorite intern. He might be my favorite addition to this movie.
Oh, Rob.
Rob.
Yeah. In a comedic way. I think he's pretty funny. Um, so I like his close relationship with Sydney in the sense that when Sydney and Pat try to pull one over on him and she steals the keys, like he just immediately knows because that's the kind of relationship that he has with that gorilla because he's just there all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So there's little minute details like that I really liked, and I did think he was dead, so I was like, well, that sucks. No one will know your sacrifice. And like 2 minutes later, I had to amend my notes. Well, he survived.
I just wrote, Rob's alive?
Yeah.
Question mark.
Yeah, that was pretty. That was funny, though it made no sense.
No.
Yeah, I would have liked an explanation, actually.
Yeah, me too. Well, the explanation.
You hear a gunshot,
yeah.
a bunch of people come running through the door. I'm like, oh, well,
Yeah.
he didn't get out of there.
The explanation that they give is that he just knows the facility so well.
He knows the place.
That's pretty much all you have to infer. But because of the gunshot, I'm just like, I don't know. I mean, we know the cops are trigger happy. Like, that's confirmed. But it's still, it would have been nice to get an explanation.
Sprinks, you were about to say something there.
It just, this last act is wild.
It's definitely goofy.
Is Pat? It's not Pat, but is the actress who plays Pat the phone operator?
Yes. Well, she's also Judith. If you didn't pick that up.
Hey, I didn't pick that up.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's Judith and the phone operator.
Judith and Pat are played by the same person?
Yeah, that's why I was talking about. So, the scenes they're in together are well done.
Yeah,
it's the lighting
it's
matches.
Never picked that up.
Yeah, same person.
Yeah.
The Judith character is actually a reference to. I forgot the actress's name who played the lead here, but references one of her stand-up characters. I guess. So, something I saw in the research side of things.
Interesting. Yeah,
so there you go. Sprinks a revelation for you right here in the third act.
They do a very good job of the integration.
Yeah. Pretty darn solid with it.
Is it
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, is it a problem that Sydney's cage has wheels?
Absolutely.
Yes, of course it is.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I just thought it was funny.
I
was like, oh, she could just move it like it's nothing. I'm like, what's the point of a cage? She could just do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first time it was moved, I'm like, oh, okay. Just pure gorilla strength. And then later when it's moved, you can see the wheels like, oh, this is just stupid. Never mind.
She just rolls around the office to help out Pat.
Yeah. No cage required, actually. It probably would have been better if she was just tied up to a wall on a leash, because it would just be as effective as moving this cage around.
I legitimately think the cage is supposed to be a slapstick joke.
Oh yeah, probably.
Like, because mostly, I mean, you see a cage, you expect it to be chained down somehow.
Yeah.
So Pat manages to. Never mind. Was there more?
No, just a understanding.
Okay. Pat does get a call out to Vance, and Vance schedules a talk show thing, whatever. He goes on TV, and it's not just my wife's still alive. They actually bring opposition. They bring a member of the Organization of World Management to counter his claims of her living. That caught me off guard. I was like, wow, this is some like actual journalistic integrity here. Getting 2 views? Crazy. That's weird. Doesn't seem like the show they would do that either.
Don't get me started on that. The anti-capitalist themes in this one were very fun for me. I'll jump to the gorilla likes pain meds. I found that to be just a little bit funny, and then I like the intern taught him gorilla sign language, which for me, I made a personal connection to a joke in the Flash when they joke about learning gorilla sign language.
I would
Does
guess
Gorilla Grodd
Gorilla
do sign
Grodd.
language?
Yeah, well, in the Flash universe,
Oh.
yes. In at least the two versions of it, we have the CW Flash. We know that he does gorilla sign language, and then we have the Zack Snyder universe. We know that Gorilla Grodd in that universe as well does gorilla sign language. Obviously, Grodd doesn't need it at a certain point because Grodd can fucking talk, but it's a reference usually.
Interesting.
Right.
Oh, me? The sound of about 6 revolvers being shot in a small room do not make that noise. When the cops are shooting the door, that sound effect is not matched. Not that it's not synced up, it's just a completely different gun.
Yeah, that's kind of par for the course though for the 70s and 80s. Though they always use
they're
like
generic punch sound effect. Or
yeah, they never use like proper gun sounds.
What I thought was just crazy was how trigger happy they were at the door. Because I was just thinking, the people that got out of the elevator could have just been obliterated by that, and that would have been very interesting.
Sydney saved their lives by giving them wrong directions.
Which way did they go? Point. What a Tom and Jerry moment.
Absolutely.
It was so cartoony.
This is Looney Tunes levels of like. At this point, I don't know if the absurdity of the film got to me, but I found myself kind of enjoying it for the weird cartoonish vibes that it was giving off.
Yeah, Rob slides into the elevator, trips them all. They can still see him while they're on the ground, but I guess they didn't.
Rob just fucking army crawling with a lab coat over on him to hide him.
Oh, when he goes
I like his disguise hanging on the wall though. That's not bad.
Yeah, that one was more amusing. Like I said, there's a lot of absurdities that came with Rob that actually, as far as jokes are concerned, kind of got me a little bit.
They try to do the Scooby-Doo door chase sequence with the elevators, but the elevators aren't moving.
They're not moving. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, they seem to only move when you push the button, I guess. Because we get a scene, she's like, Sydney, push the button. So I guess they're just sitting there until you press a button. I don't know.
Well, Rob went into the second one, and then it opens and Rob comes out, so he didn't push a button.
Well, he could press the open door button. I don't know why he would want to open the door.
Maybe.
Because that is a button on an elevator. I just don't know why he would want to do that. Because he knows there's people there. I don't know. But yeah, Scooby-Doo is what that was.
Also, I'll throw in another one. Rob is just a real dude, because the moment he reads the top secret information, he's like, yep, I'm on board. I don't want to shirk your world.
He just screams it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. He couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I like the fact that he has no intention of helping them until she learns that the world's gonna die. Oh, I guess I should jump in on this. I don't know. I guess I enjoy the fact that he's very like by the books, kind of, in a way that like he's just a guy doing his job, and then now he's thrust into like, oh shit, the world's in danger.
They told me you were a clone, which is a decent line by them, I guess.
Yeah, I actually didn't take much issue with that. I'm like, they need to explain that, and then they did, so I was kind of okay with that.
But can they clone? Is that actually Pat at the end that's growing, or is that a clone of Pat?
It could be. With how off the rails the third act went into, could totally be a clone. The ending could be a clone.
Yeah, the only reason I wouldn't think
she could have died.
Yeah, the only reason I don't think it's a clone is because of the lingering shot on the convenience store, like spinning goo or whatever, with all the chemicals mixed together.
Yeah, it's moving.
Yeah, that's the only reason that I would lean to it not being a clone, is because there's a visual hint that it's just her growing back.
Yeah. She went to the quantum realm and back.
Pretty much. I don't know why she suddenly shrank exponentially faster at that one point, and why
I
she
was
could
hinting at it.
predict.
Yeah.
Yeah, no idea. They're not consistent with how she shrinks at all in the film. They kind of
If at that size, if that's everything proportioned is changing around her perspective, but her own dimensions aren't shifting sizing. So from Pat's viewpoint, she is just normal sized. Not actually normal sized, but at the size totally fine. So why couldn't she feel any other shrink pointages of her shrinking? Unless they all were in the occurrence of overnight because of the doll scene. And this is the only one that happened like during the day or while she's conscious.
It's theoretically possible, as annoying as that may be. But I don't know. I don't think they cared when they did that. They're just like, oh, it'd be an interesting visual if she just shrank out of existence in front of everybody.
Yeah, they cared
Which
to
is
get
a
the point there.
decent thing. I like the visual of her shirt or whatever just flying away. That was nice. What wasn't nice was everybody just walking away. I'm like, are you guys going to check if she's still there? I mean, she could just be very small. But no, everyone just turns and walks away.
And she's dead. We already
Yeah.
know she died. This one's a clone. Carry on.
Yeah, very, very strange.
It's old news.
Yeah.
I don't understand why this whole lab was connected to a restaurant.
Neither do I.
Where else do you put your evil labs?
My best
At
guess.
the science center.
That's
At
where
the
you would expect to see
Clement
it, though.
Institute.
My best guess is it's a front. I just thought it was weird that it was all connected.
I mean, Big Trouble in Little China. That's the same. It's all connected to like a hotel or something, a secret underground facility. I don't think it's too outlandish to have a
True,
secret
but
facility under a business.
It's not outlandish.
I mean, it happens in a lot of movies and shows that a secret organization takes residence under a business.
More mundane sort of business, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not too worried about its location.
Is this? Oh, could this imply that the Kleinman Institute that we see her get experimented on is no way connected, possibly, to the evil Oval Room?
The only connection is the doctor and Ruth.
Yeah,
That they go to that room, but do we know of like a time jump in the day? Because that's after they've talked to Pat, and it could just be later on the day. Here we see them in the room, and then they go to Pat in her cage, which I guess could be the same thing. It could have just been a time jump.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, it could be a time jump.
I mean, it's
Nothing solidifies that these 4 locations are all connected. I guess the restaurant
other
to
than the
the
doctor's
lab.
connected.
Yeah,
but-
other than the doctor works at both places. That's pretty much
Yeah.
all we really have to go on, I think.
So, yeah, don't know. I think it works, whether it's all connected or not connected, only by the guy.
Reading my notes here. I just want to say when I put intern uses banana peels and the Looney Tunes shit starts. So I already called it Looney Tunes. That's funny. Good job, past me.
Clean out the bananas. All right. Yeah. Another thing that bugs me is presumably it took months for this shrinking to happen. Where we started at summertime, presumably we go through Christmas, and now we're appear to be at a warmer time.
Spring,
so months, and then she grows back within hours. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit of a
hours or within a week, because it could take time to organize a memorial service, but it wasn't months. I could say that much. It was not months to set up everything.
I agree.
So just inconsistency with the shrinking / growing in this scenario.
Yeah. Why at the bar towards the end when they're all like watching the news coverage of like the midnight around the world, which is I'm glad that all the depictions of the countries around the world are all in black and white to not show like a day cycle. But why is some old lady just sitting on Rob's lap?
Haven't the fucking faintest.
Didn't expect you to say that. I don't know. Couldn't tell you.
I don't know if that was supposed to be a joke, just like a
I
random humor thing.
I think it's legitimately supposed to be some random humor thing. I have no idea otherwise.
We see that Sydney is now a member of the family. Interesting choice.
Kinda, yeah.
You'd think the Institute or whoever lab that was would want their gorilla bay. I don't know.
Or she would stick with Rob.
That probably more so. Yeah, why wouldn't the gorilla go with?
It's definitely
Rob?
It's definitely an odd choice.
You just made that even
Worse.
more
Yeah.
apparent.
Especially for the
Yeah.
sake that she's not around.
Yeah, at this point she's dead.
Yeah.
She's dead and Rob's still around.
Yeah,
Yet Sydney went with her family.
yeah, that's actually not good at all.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I just thought of a funny joke. What if this is the an origin story for King Kong? Like he gets all the like Sydney gets all the chemicals eventually, and gross.
Don't like it.
I'm sure you didn't.
I don't like if it's even an origin story to Mighty Joe Young. Well, actually, it can't be because he has his origin in that movie. But
I think that Dan had a decent conclusion. Arrest this man. You haven't done anything. Oh, yes, I have.
Yeah.
Um,
He has some moral fiber to him.
yeah, he's got a morality by the end of this to some degree. He's been selfish this whole time.
Actually, I do have one thing to say that I just remembered. Sorry. Sprinks, you said the elevators didn't move?
when
They're doing the game.
when they did the gag of like the Scooby-Doo chase thing, Rob goes in the middle elevator and then the doors open and he comes out. There's not like he went up one, came down another. So from the perspective of the floor they're on, they're going in and out different elevators.
The numbers on the walls changed, which I thought was the indication. Like they went from floor 1 to floor 2 to upwards.
Oh. Did the numbers change?
Does it?
Yeah, I remember the numbers changing.
I
But
didn't go back and check.
I could.
If the numbers change, then the cops teleport.
Or they just
they
ran
ran
up the stairs.
All right, I'm gonna have to look at that. Interesting.
I remember numbers changing, but that might just be me. So I guess TBD. I guess on that one. Sorry, you were saying Crimson.
Huh?
You were saying something before.
I
shot off a tangent.
Lost it.
Damn.
That's fine. I can find something. The end credits are Galaxy Glue. The Galaxy Glue had like no real spot in this movie. It had nothing to do with the plot. So it's interesting that they chose to have that be the finale bit.
The comments on this movie are all about Galaxy Glue. Like apparently a lot of people growing up remember the jingle.
And it's a catchy jingle. I'll grant that. Galaxy Glue. Yeah, it's catchy. And it kind of was a interesting bookend of sorts because this is a Universal film and it opens with the stars going to the Universal Earth logo and closed with the stars. Don't know how intentional that may have been. Interesting.
Okay.
Sprinks.
I watched it over. Elevators all make sense. They're just very, very slow.
Okay.
The cops going up the stairs beat the time of an elevator going one floor.
So the floor numbers do change?
The floor numbers do change, and the position the people are in going into the elevators match.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I like my
Congratulations,
gags.
Ryder.
I like my
You fixed
gags
the
to be
elevator.
consistent. Yay!
It's just very slow elevators.
Yeah. It's just the strangeness in the being slow is this is supposed to be a highly secretive facility that's expensive, presumably.
I think the security, because they're not cops, the security in the place are worse than
The First Order.
Storm. Well, sure, First Order. We'll go with First Order. The elevator shaft when Sydney's jumping around in there, it's a tiny shaft, and they're shooting up at the gorilla. It should be a very easy target to hit, and they're missing everything.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
They're using airsoft bullets. I don't know.
It still hit him.
That's true.
Writer.
Is it weird that instead of like doubling down and warning the world, she just kind of accepts her death or theoretical death when she shrinks away?
I think her. I think it works for her. I don't know.
I agree. I think it's an. What doesn't work is that she knows how much time she has left before she shrinks.
Yeah.
But what she says, I think, is fine.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And not just that she shrinks, but that she's going to shrink to oblivion.
Yeah.
She could have
Because
just gotten a little shorter.
She fixes it because she tells Rob, "Hey, take care of that paper."
Page 10. Make sure that gets to the right people.
Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. I guess I had mixed feelings on it, but yeah, if you're both on the, it's fine, then it's probably fine.
Yeah, she doesn't ignore the situation of the world shrinking plan. She just trusts the hands into someone else.
And then she shrinks away.
And to oblivion, never to be seen again, but she does.
No, that's
scene. Yeah, you're right. The scene of her jumping off of Sydney onto the table by holding onto the rope. You get a shot, like a wider shot, and you can just see like a doll that they taped to the rope or tied to the rope.
Yeah.
From the wide shot, and it's pretty funny just to look at. Wanted to point that out. And something I'm going to keep on my tablet is the image of Sydney flipping off the scientist in the elevator. I just found that so funny, like out of the blue.
It is funny.
Yeah,
that's a sign language he knows.
It'll probably be an image I'll use in the future for something, I'm sure.
Yeah. Rob taught her that specifically.
Yeah. How are your guys' notes looking?
Well, this act I had the smallest amount of notes, so I'm empty.
My last note is she's growing big at the end.
Yeah.
Honey, we blew up the baby.
Pretty much.
And,
yeah, my last note is, what a wild movie.
It is a wild movie.
Yeah, it's pretty... Yeah, because we already covered Dan turning himself in, and that was funny, but again, has some moral fiber to him. It's...
Go ahead.
Sorry. Is it weird that Pat just kind of takes it? The fact that she's going to grow big now, or she's just like, "Aha, here we go again." Does that fit the mood, you think, for her?
I was gonna say, I think if it's the tone of the film, her as a character, I think she would also go with the eye roll, like, ugh, again.
But she seems happy about it though, like she's smiling with the eye roll. Like if it was a annoyed eye roll, it would have been different, I think. Because I agree, it fits the tone. It's just I don't know if that would be in character at this point because it's been a fairly traumatic experience.
Would you guys prefer being shrunk or grown?
Well, someone from my stature. Damn.
I would
Oh,
rather be shrunk. Getting large would be so inconvenient.
probably shrinking. You can still get around. You have an abundance of food. You can find clothes that fit. Growing, there's only so much until you're just outside naked.
Yeah. I don't really know any positives really to being growing constantly.
Yeah, I think I would pick shrinking. Again, it's all depends on how much it would go. Like, if you're gonna shrink indefinitely or grow indefinitely. But I would probably pick shrinking.
If Pam, I did it.
I mean, would you die from shrinking? Would it get to the point where you can't intake oxygen?
Yeah, I was gonna say once you're smaller than oxygen molecules, you're probably toast.
Okay. But then you'd grow to the point where you just suffocate.
I was gonna say that Pat's gonna grow to where her head pokes out of the atmosphere and she dies and lands on civilians.
Yeah, I take it this movie doesn't have a sequel, does it?
No, I mean, it barely made its money back in the box office. So no sequel for this. I don't have much left, so Vance got to the grocery store really quick.
Oh, he just teleported. Yeah.
Yeah, they just got out of the secret area, climbed out, got in front of the store, boom, Vance shows up for the speech. Doesn't make sense. Teleport. And just something I thought was I know cartoony world in this, but this is the biggest ratings in TV history. Like the Queen's coronation.
Nope.
Landing on the moon.
Nope.
This beat both of those, huh?
Yeah.
Apparently.
I guess so.
I mean, to be fair, I think I Am Iron Man in the real universe would beat out those things. Like if Tony Stark was real and said that line, I think that would eventually beat that out.
I think so. I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, at that point, Iron Man isn't like a world-renowned character.
No. Yeah, but I'm saying more like that in terms, I guess, of a view count, because that would eventually garner all the attention of everything.
I guess the question is, what's bigger, historical? Well, it is a historical event either way, but like a part of history being documented or a depiction of supernatural turned real, or not supernatural, science fiction turned real.
I mean, this isn't even like extreme science fiction. This could be like a weird genetic anomaly. Like this isn't crazy like aliens.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think like someone growing or shrinking at a rapid rate. Would that get more? Well, actually, it's been going on for a week. I'm like, rather than like the teardown of the Berlin Wall or something. But then again, both have like build up to get to that point, kind of thing. They're both being documented of.
Yeah, there was a lot of things building up to the Berlin Wall. So
yeah,
just as the moon landing. So,
but there's been a lot of coverage on Pat shrinking.
That's true.
And Pat shrinking overtook the world.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the state or country.
I just kind of shrugged and said, "If you say so, movie."
Yeah.
In this world, that is true.
I guess that would be it. Well, no, one more thing. I would have liked to have more of a crowd reaction to her being alive at the end. We get a yay, she's back.
And then they just walk off. I legitimately
walk away.
I legitimately think that's just for a joke.
Was it? Okay.
I think so.
I didn't see it. So,
the reason I lean towards it being a joke is because it's just because of how nonchalant it is. Like, okay, yeah, now we can just go back to our daily lives doing whatever.
This thought is inconsistent with how engrossed the world is with this woman. She's back to life. Oh, okay.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, it's a joke at the expense of the world building in that sense. Yeah.
I guess that is it. We made it to the end. Time for ratings. Going to go. I have no idea what you guys are going to give this subjectively. I'm very interested.
I'm going to give it a number through 10. 1 through 10.
Well, I guess there is an idea within that. Yeah. We'll go with Sprinks first.
Oh boy, that's me. Let's go with objective. I think the props are really good. I think the setting's really good. I think the acting's real good. I think um the setting is pretty good. The commercialized world of what's going around, or like Pat's perspective and everyone around her, the mystery of all the I think the situation at hand is pretty well handled. And then the relationship, I think, is lacking a little. I think there could be a little more on relationship of Pat and Vance, Pat and Vance. I think Dan and Vance, what they have together is like working, and then how that portrays Vance onto Pat, I think, is real good. I think the bad guys are okay. They have a goal, but they don't really achieve it. I think my biggest hindrance to this movie is how much something's said that doesn't occur, or just gets skipped over, or doesn't have a gradual thing. I think the worst thing is the pacing of this movie for me, just like things that are moved past, skipped, changed, time frame. The cinematography, I think, is pretty on par. It's fine. The lighting is pretty good. A lot of the darker parts are still lit up. The one that's definitely artificial is at the end when they're all holding like candles outside. It's not candlelight that's illuminating the cul-de-sac. It's definitely like set lighting. It helps, I think, that they have 2 TV show presence, because then they can use the take of like the film camera and the lighting to be shown in shots, but also be used for the film. So I think it's kind of clever and helpful for the film of its time. Yeah, overall, not many complaints of how the movie's made and everything. I have it as an 8. I think it's pretty well done. Subjectively, I'll up to 59 minutes and 30 seconds. I had this film at a 6.5. I thought it was pretty good. I like the mystery. I like where it was going. I like the trying to figure out what the world is and the characters and why they're acting this way, and like the whole Galaxy Glue song, and then Vance finishing the line in rhyme. I'm like, oh, what does this mean? Where's this going? Like all the secrecy. And then we get to Pat in a cage and Cindy the gorilla and Looney Tunes, Tom and Jerry stuff. And the movie tanked for me. It felt like a completely different tone, different movie. There's still funny bits. This whole movie has a lot of funny bits of what hits and doesn't hit, but it just felt like 2 completely separate movies, and that really took me out of what was invested in me into it. So that plummeted my rating. I have my subjective at a 4.5. I really think the first I can't say first hour because there's 30 seconds that I don't count, but the first 59 30 minutes I think are pretty solid and good, and then it's just like zany. I don't know, it reminded me of like Howard the Duck kind of thing. Like they have this whole thing set and then it just goes off the rails towards the end. I don't know if it's just a movie of its time to do something like that, but it didn't hit for me.
Okay. We'll go with Ryder.
All right, I'll start with my objective, like Sprinks. I I'll start with the plot. I think the plot is okay. It's got a lot of little quirks in it to kind of push it forward. I do think the pacing is off in some areas, but I think overall they get to where they're intending to most of the time. Um, World building, I have a little more issues with. Um, I don't think the shrinking is consistent. I don't think the voice projecting is consistent. We've talked about the time frame, the passage of time, how it's going on. We talked about, I guess, just a little bit how the world's integrating, like they're reacting to Pat, and there's there's a fair there's a more inconsistencies built within that. Now, characters, I think for the most part are okay, but I think most of them have nicks in them related to either decisions that we don't get to see and we don't have the information to infer why they would make those decisions, which does tie a little bit into pacing, at least within the case of Pat choosing not to go public with the chemicals on the show. Um, I think the like the relationship between her and Vance is for the most part pretty well done, but again, problems come out of nowhere. Like I think they comes across as they need money, which wasn't really set up. Um, and a lot of that does start tying into characters. We talked about whether it would be, you know, inconsistent about whether she herself would be like there's just nicks everywhere. Um, that isn't said, it's not a bad movie. I don't think this. I think they definitely had their goals and they achieved them. I think for the most part, and I think there isn't anything that like breaks the movie from the ground up on an objective scale. But I don't see this really escaping the average part of my scale. I've been bouncing between two numbers, which is 6 and 6.5. I'm gonna land at 6.5 for now. Uh, Good movie. I would. It's not as bad as I thought it might be at the start of the film. uh, Once I settled in, I think a lot of and the character work started taking place. I think it kind of helped to kind of snowball it upwards than where I initially thought that rating would be. Um, Funny enough, Springs, I'm the exact opposite. I didn't really enjoy the movie until the last act, or the last half hour, and I think it's because the Looney Tunes shit got. Like I said, I was laughing at the Looney Tunes shit because it was Looney Tunes. Like it was reminiscent of like as you said, Scooby Doo and stuff like that. And I think while it is slapstick, I think I might have just settled into the movie more at that point. I did enjoy myself a little bit more. There were, but because before that, the only joke that had even, mind you, none of the slapstick at the end made me laugh out loud. I still found myself enjoying the film a little bit more. The only joke to make me laugh was the one at the funeral, which we kind of talked about with character nicks that take place, and why it would be a bad time for Judith to say this and things of that nature, and how terrible it was to have a Matchbox funeral. Um, I think the movie is okay. I don't think it's terrible, but I am not going to go out of my way to watch it again. Um, so I'm at a 4 subjectively.
Ryder, I had a question pertaining to your objective thing real quick.
Alrighty.
You brought up her inconsistency with her voice and her visual portrayal of her height being off, but that isn't really writing stuff. Was that put into your scale?
The the writing is involved with the voice projection because sometimes they act like they sometimes they can't hear her and other times they can. So unfortunately that did become a writing nick. As far as the visual side of things, I think a part of it does in the sense of how it might tie into characters. Like we don't really see characters react to her. Like we talk about her kids not being able to react to her and stuff like that. But the visuals itself, I don't think would tie unless unless they're world breaking, pretty much.
Okay, just curious. All right, I will start the opposite of you guys with my subjective. Even though this is a childhood film, it's not one that I in love with. I do not laugh all the time with it. I find it as just an okay film, so I have it at a 6. Objectively, brought up a fair amount of compliments, fair amount of complaints. I think the set design, prop design, costumes, acting, a lot of the stuff Sprinks listed early in his ratings, thumbs up and agree with. I think the going to the negative side of things, The addition of Vance talking about needing money for the whole doll thing didn't feel supported, even if it was the Dan influence angle. I don't feel like that's what they were going um, for that one. I think it was Sprinks that brought up Sydney with the family at the end, even though Pat was dead. I didn't notice that, but that's not good. I don't know why Sydney's with them instead of what's his face, Rob. Makes no sense. I agree with that. The audio stuff, agree with Ryder on that. The biggest issue for me is the bad guys requiring blood that they should 100% already possess from the infinite number of tests they did on her. Every test under the sun. The lack of kids reacting to her shrinking in the early stages. We get it weeks or possibly months after. We don't know because there's not much of a time frame, which is also an issue. The perfume thing where it's visually shown that the perfume has magical properties or it's the cause, but it is just a recipe an ingredient in the recipe of a bunch of products. So the whole light and smoke thing didn't make sense with the robe. I think that Vance had a character issue with the funeral, giving it a Matchbox funeral instead of a real funeral. Kind of feels disrespectful to her. And I don't think he would do that because he did love her. Other than that, I feel like all the characters were in character. Yeah, I think. Anyways, rambling as I tend to do, I've given this a 7 because the plot is consistent with itself, even if it is completely derailed by the requirement of the blood thing. I think that's a huge problem. All right, that's it. Anything else before Ryder closes us out?
Yes.
Okay.
Grimson, you brought up more points that I realized, and I haven't done this before. I like to change my objective rating.
Oh, okay.
I think you've brought up more points of negativity that make more sense to me than just a writing or pacing issue. So I like to change my objective to 7.5, please.
Okay.
I think that
is
fits
there
more in line.
something in particular that
There's
kinda...
more just sequences of what occurred, the money situation you brought up with Vance, the combination of chemicals, but then the dress changes, and when we covered it in this episode, it was both partially serious as a point of it could be material, but also jokingly like, oh, it could be anything because it's not explained. I didn't bring up the ADR stuff that Ryder did, but I agree with that. Some of it, you asked him if that's writing. For me, it's definitely a writing choice because then if it's not, you just cut out that shot. But if it is, then it's like rewritten in if need be because you have it.
Did I misunderstand
So like all
the
that
question?
kind of like the one Crimson pitched to you, I don't know. I could be misunderstanding what was interpreted of what was asked. I just for ADR work of what was written in of things being said, things were caught that I see that are like for me intentionally used for writing because they kept them in the movie, but
yeah, I feel like
not great.
Yeah, because of your confusion, Springs, or my confusion, I want to clarify now. I was referring to the fact that her audio, not the audio for her is inconsistent. Like when she's smaller, her audio to people's perception doesn't change.
Oh, of her talking and
Yes.
screaming of like how people
perceive her voice.
Got it.
Yeah, that's what
I heard that as ADR work of.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. I the ADR itself, I would not consider part of the writing outside of the dialogue that it spouts out. But yeah, okay. Then just wanted to clarify that.
All right. Yeah, Springs. I think that is a first. If you post
to change it in the
yeah,
and not prior.
Yeah, and like the recap or something, which is a rarity in of itself. All right. I guess Ryder, send us out.
All right, audience. Thank you for listening, whether it be Spotify, Amazon, Castbox, Good Pods, iHeartRadio, Podcast, and Samsung. If you happen to be on our visual side of things, be it YouTube or Rumble, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe everywhere. Tell us how much you hate our opinions or how much you love them As always, I have been a geeky writer,
I'm Crimson Maroon.
And I'm Sprinks.
and we will catch you next time. Later, everybody.
Bye.
Toodaloo.